Chapter 22:18. Evil Swordsman's sword was stunning. It finally broke through the evil god tribe patriarch's attack and charged towards him. The cultivation method of the evil god tribe was not a system of laws. It was very similar to the immemorial system of the heaven domain. They cultivated a strange power that was very powerful. It was both offensive and defensive. At this moment, it was slashed open by evil swordsman's sword light. A deep sword wound was left on the evil god tribe patriarch's body. Roar! The evil god tribe patriarch roared. A layer of purple light covered his body as he charged towards evil swordsman. At this moment, Lu Ming controlled the divine nine-dragon cauldron and charged over again. The divine nine-dragon cauldron resonated with each other and suppressed the evil god tribe patriarch together. The evil god tribe patriarch waved the weapon in his hand and attacked continuously. Boom! 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 The divine nine-dragon cauldron kept rumbling and was sent flying. However, evil swordsman's attack came again. The evil god tribe patriarch was already severely injured and his fighting strength was greatly reduced. Now that he was surrounded by Lu Ming and evil swordsmen, he was completely at a disadvantage. The rest of the evil god tribe were shocked. Even the evil god tribe patriarch was no match for them? Then how could they open the passage? As for the three experts from Two World City, they were overjoyed. Lu Ming could control the divine nine-dragon cauldron and unleash boundless fighting strength. It was a pleasant surprise. This gave them a chance to turn the tables. But at this moment, their faces changed drastically, because in the distance there were a few extremely terrifying auras that were spreading towards them. The few of them looked in one direction. There were three huge demonic figures that were heading towards them. The strength of their auras was not weaker than the evil god tribe patriarchs. The evil god tribe's peerless experts, and there are three of them at once. The three people from Two World City were pale, and despair was written all over their faces. In the Heavenly Emperor realm, there was a huge gap between each level. The gap between each level was huge. Only heavenly emperors who are 4-star heavenly emperors and above could be called peerless experts. Such people already stood at the peak of the world. They were at the top of the pyramid of all living beings and were unbelievably powerful. The reason why this ancient battlefield was so terrifying was that a group of peerless experts had fought in the past. After many experts died, they left behind an inextinguishable mark that was extremely terrifying. The evil god tribe patriarch. It wasn't hard to imagine just how powerful a peerless powerhouse was. Now there were three of them. Inside the divine nine-dragon cauldron, Lu Ming and Dandan could also sense the situation outside. At this moment, their faces changed drastically. It's them! Lu Ming roared. Back then, when he crossed over from the primordial realm, he saw four incomparably huge demonic figures of the evil god tribe fighting a fierce battle with the divine nine-dragon cauldron. Clearly, it was these four people. The ancestors are here. The members of the evil god tribe were wild with joy. For the sake of seizing this passageway, the evil god race could be said to have made ample preparations. First, they sent a large army to attack Two World City, preventing the heavenly realm experts from diverting their attention to reinforce them. Then they opened up this passageway. When the evil god race's army entered the primordial realm, the overall situation would be decided. Kill! In the distance, an ancestor of the evil god tribe roared. The void exploded unceasingly. The scene was extremely horrifying. Damn it! Evil sword artist roared. One ancestor of the evil god tribe was already hard enough to deal with, and now there were three more. He could sense that the ancestors of the evil god tribe were all injured. Their strength was not as strong as before, but it was still extremely shocking. The three demonic figures rushed over with extreme speed. Boom! But at this moment, the sky in the distance exploded violently. The void collapsed, and a huge hand stretched out from the dark void. The huge hand was incomparably huge, and it was filled with the might of the heavenly Tao. It blasted toward the three ancestors of the evil god tribe. Who is it? Imitating the ancestors of the evil god tribe, they roared and blasted out attacks toward the huge hand. Boom! That part of the void was directly smashed. It was as if the world had been destroyed and returned to chaos. Amidst the terrifying explosion, that huge hand exploded. But then a figure appeared in that area. This figure was enveloped by divine light, and his appearance could not be seen clearly. One could only roughly feel that he was burly and filled with supreme majesty. Boom! That figure continued to attack. His hands continuously blasted out terrifying palm prints toward the three ancestors of the evil god tribe. It's a peerless expert of our heavenly realm. The three experts of Two World City were ecstatic. Finally, a peerless expert of the heavenly realm had rushed over. The ancestors of the evil god tribe were injured in the end. At this moment, the three of them were suppressed by a peerless expert of the heavenly realm. The three of them were extremely indignant and roared. If they were at their peak, they would not be weaker than the other party. It was a pity that they were injured and their strength was greatly reduced. That was why they were so sullen. The three of them were suppressed by the other party. You go and kill them. Leave this person to the two of us. At this moment, an evil god tribe ancestor roared. The light on his body became brighter and brighter. Two of the ancestors of the evil god tribe went all out. Ignoring their injuries, they forcefully raised their combat strength to the peak and charged toward the peerless expert of the heavenly realm. The three of them collided horribly and fought in the depths of the dark void. The remaining ancestor of the evil god tribe charged toward Lu Ming and the others. And die. The ancestor of the evil god tribe roared and stretched out a palm. His palm was suffused with terrifying light as he grabbed toward Lu Ming. Even though they were very far away, a terrifying pressure pressed down on the divine nine-dragon cauldron, causing it to buzz and vibrate. Kill! Lu Ming controlled the divine nine-dragon cauldron and attacked the other party. Boom! Boom! The divine nine-dragon cauldron collided with the other party's attack. It vibrated continuously and then was sent flying. Lu Ming and Dandan were hiding in a divine nine-dragon cauldron. At this moment, they were also violently shaken. Their blood and chi were boiling. Swoosh! The ancestor of the evil god tribe charged over. His incomparably huge body started to shrink and eventually became the size of an ordinary person. This ancestor of the evil god tribe was not much different from a human. He had a head of purple hair and was incomparably handsome. The only difference was that there was a third eye at the center of his brows. This was a royal member of the evil god tribe. The royal member of the evil god tribe was too strong. Even though he was injured, his combat strength was still very terrifying. His entire body was enveloped by a layer of purple light. The third eye at the center of his brows lit up. 9 sparkling and resplendent battle swords flew out and slashed toward the divine nine-dragon cauldron. Clang! Clang! The battle swords continuously slashed on the divine nine-dragon cauldron. Sparks flew everywhere, and the cauldron vibrated continuously. Lu Ming and Dandan were hiding in that cauldron and were surrounded by 8 other cauldrons. But even so, the terrifying power of the other party still surged in, causing Lu Ming to vomit large mouthfuls of blood. Dandan's cultivation was slightly higher, so it was slightly better. The situation was not good for Lu Ming and the others. If this continued, they would be killed by the other party, even with the divine nine-dragon cauldron. The main thing was that the difference in cultivation was too great. If Lu Ming had the cultivation of a true emperor, the situation would be much better. Awaken, divine nine-dragon cauldron. Chapter 2219. In Lu Ming's body, his blood and chi surged like a river, and they were also like true dragons swimming around. Roar! Dragon roars rang out. The nine-dragon phantom around Lu Ming's body suddenly broke apart and rushed into Lu Ming's body. Then, 9 drops of blood essence flew out from Lu Ming's body. 9 dragon blood essence. Lu Ming didn't need to think to know that this was the 9 dragon blood essence. The 9 dragon blood essence that he had refined in his body actually flew out of his body. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt extremely weak. His physical strength was rapidly weakening. The 9 drops of 9 dragon blood essence shone and flew into the 9 divine 9 dragon cauldrons. Roar! Roar! At this moment, the 9 divine 9 dragon cauldrons let out a shocking dragon roar. At the same time, the 9 divine 9 dragon cauldrons actually started to merge. Such a change caused the expression of the evil god tribe's patriarch to change. He launched an even stronger attack. However, the divine 9 dragon cauldrons completed the merger amidst the tremors. The 9 cauldrons merged into one. Lu Ming and Dandan were still in the divine 9 dragon cauldrons. When the 9 cauldrons merged into one, their power increased greatly. They were even larger than mountains, filling the sky and suppressing the other party. Dong! Dong! The other party's battle sword continuously slashed at the divine 9 dragon cauldrons. However, when the 9 cauldrons merged into one, their power was indeed stronger. With a shake, the other party's battle sword shattered inch by inch. Kill! The divine 9 dragon cauldrons didn't stop attacking the other party. Boom! The other party's palm struck the divine 9 dragon cauldrons. The cauldrons were fine, but the other party's body shook violently, and he was forced to retreat continuously. Kill, kill, kill! Lu Ming's killing intent surged. He took the opportunity to control the divine 9 dragon cauldrons and continuously attacked the other party. The attacks of the divine 9 dragon cauldrons were barbaric and direct. There was no technique, just crushing the other party. Kill, kill, kill this bastard! Dandan made a fuss. Boom! The evil god tribe's patriarch was sent flying again. He retreated continuously, his purple hair fluttering in the wind, and his eyes filled with rage. Ants! The evil god tribe's patriarch roared. He could feel the cultivation bases of Lu Ming and Dandan in the divine 9 dragon cauldron. In his eyes, they were no different from ants, but now he was being suppressed by 2 ants. This made him furious. Amidst his enraged bellows, the body of the evil god tribe's old ancestor started to expand rapidly. In the end, he surpassed the mountain peak and pierced into the clouds, becoming even bigger than the divine 9 dragon cauldron. At the same time, the light on his body became even brighter, and his aura continued to rise. Not good, this guy is going all out. He doesn't care about his injuries and raises his strength to the peak, Dandan exclaimed. Boom! At this moment, the aura of the evil god tribe's old ancestor reached its peak. A beam of light shot out from the third eye, transforming into a gigantic sword that slashed towards the 9 dragon cauldron. The divine 9 dragon cauldron also emitted a layer of light that blasted toward the other party. Dong! A terrifying tremor rang out. That region completely exploded. The earth split apart, and the space was smashed into smithereens. They appeared in the dark void and continued to fight. The evil god tribe's old ancestor slammed out with his palm blotting out the skies as it slammed into the divine 9 dragon cauldron. The divine 9 dragon cauldron shook violently again. Next, the evil god tribe's old ancestor unleashed a torrential barrage of attacks. At this moment, the evil god tribe's old ancestor ignored his injuries and raised his strength to the peak. It was truly shocking. This was a true peerless expert, a figure that reigned supreme in the universe. He was simply too strong. At this moment, even if the divine 9 dragon cauldron were to merge into one, it would still be difficult to defeat the other party. Roar! Roar! The divine 9 dragon cauldron was suppressed, but the dragon roars continued, and they were getting louder and louder. Finally, a true dragon appeared above the divine 9 dragon cauldron. No, it was 9 dragons. A 9 dragon with 9 dragon claws under its abdomen. 9 dragons appeared. At the start, they were still illusory, but they became more and more real. In the end, they became lifelike, as if they were real. It was as if 9 dragons had come back to life. Nestle, the 9 dragons have appeared. No, this is the combination of his blood essence and the imprint of the divine 9-dragon cauldron. It's not a physical body. Dandin shouted, "Roar!" The 9 dragons roared. Their eyes were as resplendent as the sun. Their dragon claws stepped on the air, pouncing toward the evil god tribe's old ancestor. 9 dragons. The evil god tribe's old ancestor shouted. Fear flashed across his eyes. Although he was the old ancestor of the evil god tribe, he was not someone who had survived from the ancient era. He was born later and had never seen the 9 dragons. However, he had heard of the rumors about the 9 dragons. The top 10 battle beasts of the Heaven Domain were all peak experts. They were extremely terrifying. Back then, countless experts of the evil god tribe had died in their hands. There were experts among his ancestors who had died in the hands of the top 10 battle beasts. When he saw the 9 dragons appear, he was instinctively frightened. However, he immediately reacted. This was not a physical body, not the real 9 dragons. What did he have to be afraid of? He roared and charged toward the 9 dragons, fighting with them. After all, the 9 dragons were just 9 drops of blood essence and the imprint of the divine 9-dragon cauldron. Their strength was far from their peak. On the other hand, the evil god tribe's old ancestor had already raised his strength to his peak. The 2 sides fought, and it was difficult to determine the victor. Lu Ming, it's more important to completely destroy that passageway. Don't fight with the other party. At this moment, Evil Swordsman's voice sounded. That's right. Lu Ming nodded secretly and sent a message to Evil Swordsman. Senior, how can I completely destroy that passageway? You control the 9 dragons and let them attack that passageway. Turn the space there into nothingness and return to chaos. In that case, it will take at least 100 years for the passageway to reappear. This will buy us some time, Evil Swordsman said. All right. Lu Ming made up his mind and started to control the divine 9-dragon cauldron. Boom! The 9 dragons exchanged another blow with the other party. Then they turned around and charged toward the original passageway. The divine 9-dragon cauldron was below the 9 dragons. Following the 9 dragons, it quickly moved toward the original passageway. You want to leave? Stay. The evil god tribe's old ancestor roared and chased after Lu Ming. Lu Ming controlled the divine 9-dragon cauldron and moved very quickly. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived at the original passageway. Roar! The 9 dragons roared and stomped their claws. A terrifying attack blasted toward that location. The space in that area kept exploding and turning into the tiniest particles. Back then, although the passageway had collapsed and exploded, it hadn't exploded completely. From time to time, cracks in space would appear. In that case, it was still possible to open it with some powerful means. However, if it collapsed completely, it would be difficult to open it in a short period of time. The evil god tribe's old ancestor naturally knew what Lu Ming was going to do. He was instantly enraged and charged toward Lu Ming. However, at this moment, a dragon's roar came from the depths of the sky. A huge real dragon appeared and clawed at the evil god tribe's old ancestor. It's the real dragon. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. When he had passed through the passageway and just arrived in the heaven realm, he had seen the divine 9-dragon cauldron and the 9 dragon veins fighting against the evil god tribe's old ancestor. Chapter 2220. Previously, Lu Ming hadn't seen that true dragon and thought that it had already fallen. But now it seemed that it hadn't. This true dragon was fighting with the evil god race's ancestor, making it impossible for him to come over. Lu Ming controlled the divine 9-dragon cauldron with all his might, allowing the 9 dragons to continuously bombard the space. Space kept exploding. Could this be the ancestral dragon? At this moment, Dandan looked at the incomparably huge, true dragon in the sky, dumbfounded and incomparably shocked. Ancestral dragon? What is that? A senior? Lu Ming asked curiously. It was rare to see someone who could make Dandan so shocked. Lu Ming was very surprised. No, it's not the ancestral dragon. If it's really the ancestral dragon, he can kill this evil god race with just a breath. No, it's just a trace of his aura. Dandan didn't seem to have heard Lu Ming's words. He muttered to himself, still looking dazed. Lu Ming was shocked. How was it possible that he could kill this evil god race with just a breath? This evil god race was a peerless powerhouse, a heavenly emperor above 4 stars. Even a peak heavenly emperor wouldn't be able to kill him with just a breath. But a peak heavenly emperor already stood at the peak of this world. According to Lu Ming's understanding, a heavenly emperor was the limit of cultivation in this world, the true peak invincible. Could it be that there was an existence stronger than a peak heavenly emperor? Lu Ming thought that Dandan was bragging. He didn't think too much about it and controlled the 9 dragons with all his might, constantly bombarding the void. This was somewhat like kneading dough. If you didn't knead a ball of dough, there would be many cracks. Those balls of dough wouldn't completely fuse together. If you followed the cracks, you could separate the entire ball of dough. However, after continuous kneading and slapping, the dough would fuse together and those cracks would also disappear. Right now, this void, this passageway was like this. It was like the dough before being kneaded. There were still cracks. The evil god race could follow these cracks and completely open the passageway. And Lu Ming's current bombardment was kneading the dough, wanting to completely fuse these spaces together and make the cracks disappear. Of course, this required astonishing strength. Even ordinary heavenly emperors would find it difficult to do so. At this moment, Lu Ming's 9 drops of 9 dragons' essence, blood, flew out, manifesting 9 dragons. Only with this kind of power could the passage completely collapse and the cracks disappear. The evil god race's old ancestor naturally knew what Lu Ming and the others were planning. However, one of them was blocked by the enormous true dragon and was unable to break free from it. Dream on! The ancestor of the evil god tribe, who was fighting with evil sword artist, roared. The light on his body shone brightly. At this moment, he could no longer care about his injuries. He risked aggravating his injuries and unleashed all his strength. Boom! Evil Sword Master was sent flying with a single move. However, Evil Sword Master didn't retreat. He charged towards his opponent once again. He needed to give Lu Ming enough time. However, Evil Sword Artist was severely injured after all. He had almost died in the ancient war. Until now, his strength was far from fully recovered. He was no match for the evil god tribe patriarch and was sent flying again. Not good. Lu Ming was so anxious that he tried his best to control the divine 9-dragon cauldron. Not only did the 9 dragons attack the void, but the divine 9-dragon cauldron also shone brightly as it blasted towards the void. That space continued to explode, heal, and then explode again. Quick, quick! Lu Ming was anxious because Evil Sword Artist couldn't hold on any longer. If this continued, Evil Sword Artist would definitely die. Once Evil Sword Artist died, Mulin's and Kenfei Ryu, who were in Evil Sword Artist's small world, would definitely die too. Lu Ming had to make the best use of his time. Roar! The 9 dragons roared and their bodies shone brightly. Beams of light shot out from the 9 dragons' bodies. It was extremely dazzling. Boom! Finally, the 9 dragons' bodies exploded. This explosion formed a terrifying energy. The space in this area was completely annihilated, turning into nothingness and chaos. No! The evil god, tribe patriarch, roared. Ha ha ha, great! Evil Sword Artist laughed. He no longer tried to stop the other party. In a flash, he charged towards the 3 experts from Two World City. With a wave of his energy, He lifted them up and flew into the distance. Lu Ming, that's enough. Let's go. Evil sword artist's voice rang in Lu Ming's ears. Lu Ming controlled the divine nine-dragon cauldron and flew towards evil sword artist. They met up and headed in the same direction. The two old ancestors of the evil god tribe joined forces and rushed towards that gigantic true dragon. That gigantic true dragon was no match for them, and its gigantic body began to crumble apart. Eventually, the entire body of the true dragon exploded, turning into a drop of fresh blood. With a flash, it disappeared from the area. A drop of blood! The two evil god tribe patriarchs were shocked. Then, they arrived at the original passageway. That stretch of void was rapidly healing. After it healed, there was no space left. It was exactly the same as the other regions. The tunnel had completely collapsed. Damn it! Kill those ants! The purple-haired patriarch of the evil god tribe roared and chased after Lu Ming, evil swordsman, and the rest. The other evil god tribe patriarch and the other evil god tribe patriarchs chased after evil sword artist. Lu Ming controlled the divine nine-dragon cauldron and flew with evil sword artist. But at this moment, Lu Ming felt weak. Buzz! The divine nine-dragon cauldron shook and shrunk rapidly. Lu Ming and Dandan flew out of the divine nine-dragon cauldron. Then, the divine nine-dragon cauldron split into 9 and flew into Lu Ming's glabella. At the same time, 9 drops of blood flew out of the divine nine-dragon cauldron and entered Lu Ming's body. Whoosh! At this moment, a red light flashed in the distance. A drop of blood pierced through the void and flew into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. He did not understand what was going on, but at this moment he felt weak. Let's go! Evil sword artist waved his hand and swept Lu Ming and Dandan away. But evil sword artist had not recovered from his injuries. In order to stop the evil god tribe patriarch, he had worsened his injuries. Although he was fast, there was a limit to his speed. Behind them, 2 figures chased after them at an alarming speed. It was the 2 evil god tribe patriarchs. We're doomed. We're doomed. Dandan wailed. Now that evil sword artist was seriously injured and the divine nine-dragon cauldron had run out of energy. How are they going to deal with the 2 evil god tribe patriarchs? You cowardly tortoise. You're no different from before. Evil sword artist glanced at Dandan indifferently and said disdainfully, "What did you say? You better show some respect. Do you know how to respect your juniors? You're my junior, do you understand?" Dandan was pissed and glared at evil swordsman. "Oh, is that so? Then I can only keep you here first. Maybe I can delay them a little." Evil sword artist said indifferently. Dandan immediately withered. He forced a smile and looked at evil sword artist with a gentle face. "Don't be like this. I was just joking with you. We're old friends. Calm down, calm down. Ha ha ha." At the side, Lu Ming despised him. The 3 experts from Two World City despised him too. Chapter 22-21. Evil swordsman didn't say anything else. He led the group and flew quickly. However, the 2 evil god tribe patriarchs were getting closer and closer. The distance between them was getting shorter and shorter. "You will definitely die today." "No, I won't let you die. I will extract your souls and make you suffer." One of the evil god tribe patriarchs said coldly. They were furious. They had finally found a passage to the primordial realm. As long as they could take it, they could send an army into the primordial realm. Then it would be much easier to invade the Tai-Ching sky domain. But now everything was ruined. Even though that tunnel was an innate tunnel, and as time passed, the tunnel would automatically reveal itself and return to its original appearance, it would definitely take a long time for that to happen. Most importantly, their plan was ruined by a few juniors, even though they were patriarchs. It was really embarrassing. Their killing intent was naturally strong. They kept closing the distance between them and Lu Ming. Danden's face turned pale. Evil Swordsman was very calm. He used his own energy to envelop Lu Ming and the others and flew quickly. Suddenly, Evil Swordsman stopped flying. "Hey, why aren't you running?" Danden's face turned even paler. "Wait for them," Evil Swordsman said lightly. The others were confused. The two evil god tribe patriarchs were also stunned. They didn't understand why Evil Swordsman suddenly stopped. However, they didn't stop and continued to chase. When they were about to reach Lu Ming and the others, a bright light suddenly shone in the sky. Many figures appeared in the sky. There were humans and divine beasts among these figures. There were huge divine foxes, great rocks with wingspans that covered the sky, and Kirans covered in scales. There were more than 10 figures. Kill! Kill all the foreign races. These figures were filled with killing intent. They looked at the two evil god tribe patriarchs and attacked them. Lu Ming, Danden, and the others were dumbfounded. Obviously, these figures were the imprints left behind by the peerless experts who had died in the primordial era. However, he did not expect that there would be more than a dozen of them here. Evil Sword Artist's eyes dimmed as if he was reminiscing about the past. He sighed. Back then, more than 10 experts died here. It was extremely tragic. These experts were unwilling to accept it, and before they died, they left behind an inextinguishable mark. Everyone shivered inwardly and then sighed. Just how many powerhouses were buried in the ground beneath their feet? It was no wonder that Evil Sword Artist would run here. He knew that there were more than 10 experts, imprints, gathered here. If the two ancestors of the evil god tribe were in their peak condition, these imprints would be useless against them. In fact, they wouldn't even be exposed. However, they are currently severely injured. Previously, they ignored their injuries and exerted their full strength, causing their battle prowess to be greatly reduced. These imprints will be of great use to them, Evil Sword Master said. That was indeed the case. At this moment, the two evil god tribe ancestors were besieged by the imprints of over 10 experts. For the time being, they couldn't charge out at all. Even though the battle prowess of these experts' imprints was far from what it was when they were alive, they were still extremely powerful. With more than a dozen of them working together, they completely surrounded the two evil god tribes' old ancestors. For the time being, it would be difficult for them to charge out. "Let's go to the Two-World City," Evil Sword Artist said. In a flash, he led Lu Ming and the rest towards the Two-World City. Evil Sword Artist's speed was shocking. He seemed to be able to avoid the imprints of the experts, and quickly left the ancient battlefield. The moment they left the ancient battlefield, they arrived at an even more vast region. This region was also a battlefield. There were potholes everywhere and skeletons could be seen everywhere. The two worlds had fought on this battlefield for countless years. No one knew how many living beings had fallen on this battlefield. Evil Sword Artist's speed became even faster. In a flash, he had traveled thousands of miles. Soon, a huge city appeared in front of them. This, even though Lu Ming had seen many majestic ancient cities, he still gasped when he saw this huge city. The walls of the huge city were made of various extremely tough metals. Countless runes were flowing on them. The walls were shockingly tall. They reached into the clouds. At a glance, it was at least 100,000 feet tall. One could vaguely see soldiers walking on the walls. The width of the city walls was even more shocking. Lu Ming couldn't see the ends of the walls at all. The Two-World City was called the Two-World City because it separated the two worlds. The Two-World City completely separated the Taiching Heaven Domain and the Hunyuan Heaven Domain, completely blocking the entrance to the Taiching Heaven Domain. One could only imagine how wide the city walls were. A light barrier enveloped the outside of the city walls. It was a protective barrier formed by a great array. The Two-World City was the reason why the Taiching Heaven Domain hadn't been breached by the foreign races for so many years. It seems that the foreign races have retreated. One of the three experts from the two-world city spoke. His name was Song Tianlong. Countless foreign races had previously attacked the two-world city. Perhaps they had received news of the ancient battlefield and retreated. The group flew into the sky and reached the same height as the city walls. The soldiers on the city walls could already see them. "I am Song Tianlong. Open the array and let us in." Song Tianlong said, "Yes, Lord Song Tianlong. Open the array." A voice sounded from within the city walls. Soon, the light barrier outside the city walls squirmed, and a door that only allowed one person to pass through appeared. The group walked in separately. How spectacular! After entering the two-world city, they stood in the sky and gazed into the distance. Inside the walls of the two-world city was a boundless military camp with various ancient structures soaring into the sky. Countless figures could be seen flying around the place. It was too spectacular. Everyone was injured earlier. "I'll arrange accommodations for you. Follow me," Song Tianlong said. The group followed him and flew into the distance. Soon they arrived at a huge palace. Song Tianlong quickly arranged accommodations for them in a courtyard. "Dandan, protect me," Lu Ming said to Dandan. He sat down cross-legged. Previously, the divine nine-dragon cauldron had flown into his forehead, and the 9 drops of blood had spread throughout his body. In addition, there was another drop of blood that had flown into his body. Lu Ming didn't have the time to take a closer look. First, Lu Ming checked his body. Previously, when the 9 drops of 9 dragons' blood essence flew out, he felt a sense of emptiness, and his physical strength was greatly weakened. However, not only had his physical strength recovered, but he was also full of energy. The injuries that he had suffered earlier had also completely healed. At the same time, he felt that the strength of his physical body was stronger than before. Could it be that the 9 drops of blood had flown into the divine 9-dragon cauldron and brought out some power, allowing my physical body to evolve and become stronger? Chapter 22:22. Lu Ming felt that his physical body was much stronger than before. With a slight movement, his muscles vibrated and a dragon's roar sounded. Lu Ming's blood seemed to have countless tiny 9 dragons jumping around. Lu Ming revealed a look of joy. This was a good thing. The stronger his physical body, the stronger his combat power, and the more vigorous his life force. Following that, Lu Ming's soul power sank into his sea of consciousness and observed the divine 9-dragon cauldron. The divine 9-dragon cauldron entered his sea of consciousness and floated there. The 9 cauldrons were dim, and the patterns on them were dead silent as if they had lost their spirituality. Lu Ming appeared in his sea of consciousness and observed carefully. In the end, he tried to activate the divine 9-dragon cauldron, but there was no reaction at all. The divine 9-dragon cauldron seemed to have lost its spirituality. It seems that the battle this time has greatly damaged the divine 9-dragon cauldron. It has no energy left and can't be awakened or controlled. Lu Ming speculated. At the same time, he felt that it was a pity. If he could control the divine 9-dragon cauldron, he would become a top expert in the heaven realm. Unfortunately, no matter how hard Lu Ming tried, he could not awaken the divine 9-dragon cauldron. There was no movement at all. Thinking about it, the divine 9-dragon cauldron had gone through 2 battles in a row. Back when Lu Ming came, the divine 9-dragon cauldron had brought the 9 dragon veins and fought with the 4 peerless experts of the evil god tribe at their peak. In the end, the 4 ancestors of the evil god tribe were seriously injured. It was definitely due to the divine 9-dragon cauldron. As for the divine 9-dragon cauldron itself, it was blasted into the ground and almost lost its spirituality. It was Lu Ming who activated it with the blood essence of the 9 dragons and revived it. However, after the battle, the 9 dragons appeared, but the 9 dragons self-destructed in the end. The damage to the divine 9-dragon cauldron was extremely serious. It was not difficult to understand why it ended up like this. Can I take it out? Lu Ming thought. After many attempts, he was finally able to summon the divine nine-dragon cauldron from his sea of consciousness. However, he could not unleash its power. It was like a useless cauldron. Forget it. Lu Ming shook his head. He planned to study the divine nine-dragon cauldron when he had the chance in the future. That's right, there was another drop of blood that flew into my body. Just what kind of creature's blood was that? Where was it? Lu Ming thought of that mysterious drop of blood. Lu Ming was a little worried when a mysterious drop of blood flew into his body. He carefully searched his entire body. However, there was no trace of that drop of blood on his body. No, there's something wrong with his heart. In the end, Lu Ming discovered an abnormality in his heart. His soul power sank into his heart, and he found a drop of blood. This drop of blood was sparkling and translucent. There was actually a tiny true dragon swimming within it. Is this the blood of a true dragon? Could it be that true dragon? Lu Ming thought of the true dragon that fought against the evil god tribe in the ancient battlefield. Lu Ming wondered if that true dragon was injured and a drop of blood flew out and entered his body. Lu Ming's soul power approached this drop of blood and tried to control it. Roar! Suddenly, a dragon roar came from the drop of blood. This dragon roar was filled with boundless might and also had a feeling of great, desolate antiquity. It was as if it came from an existence that had passed through time countless years ago, bringing with it a thick aura of time. Roar! The dragon roar rang out endlessly. That drop of blood actually moved, turning into a true dragon that reared its head and roared. Its eyes were like two suns. Lu Ming was shocked because he discovered that the true dragon that this drop of blood turned into was exactly the same as the true dragon that fought against the evil god tribe. At this moment, this true dragon's gaze was not looking at Lu Ming's soul power, but in another direction, in the direction of Lu Ming's spine, which was also the direction of his third bloodline. Kill. At this moment, the third bloodline seemed to have some kind of resonance. A deafening roar came from the third bloodline. This roar was filled with boundless killing intent, almost shattering Lu Ming's soul. Kill! Kill! Roars filled with killing intent rang out. That drop of blood from the third bloodline seemed to have turned into a sea of blood. Waves of blood surged, and endless killing intent surged. What's going on? At this moment, Lu Ming discovered that things had exceeded his expectations. He could not control the third bloodline at all, nor could he control the drop of true dragon's blood. Kill! In the sea of blood, the battle cries grew louder and louder. The boundless blood turned into a human face. Then it turned into a beast face and kept changing. At this moment, the boundless power in the sea of blood seemed to want to rush out and destroy Lu Ming's soul, causing Lu Ming to sink into endless killing intent and turn into a killing puppet. No, Lu Ming roared. His soul shone as he guarded his heart. However, the power emitted by the sea of blood grew stronger and stronger, and the killing intent surged. Roar! At this moment, that drop of true dragon's blood turned into a true dragon and roared at the sky. It emitted an ancient dragon might as if it was fighting against the third bloodline. What's going on? Why is the bloodline suddenly going out of control? Could it be related to this drop of true dragon's blood? But why would the true dragon's blood cause the third bloodline to mutate? It seems that this true dragon's blood and the third bloodline are enemies. Thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. He guarded his heart and did not let the boundless killing intent in the third bloodline destroy him. Otherwise, he would really be reduced to a killing puppet forever. However, the power that emerged from the third bloodline was too strong, completely surpassing him. At this moment, outside, Dandan was curiously sizing up Lu Ming. He could not hear everything that was happening in Lu Ming's body, including that shocking dragon roar and terrifying battle cries. It seemed that only Lu Ming could hear it. The only abnormality was that Lu Ming's body was trembling constantly. His body was covered in a bloody light, and his face was somewhat ferocious. What's wrong with this kid? Even a drop of ancestral dragon's blood shouldn't be like this, right? Dandin muttered to himself and walked around Lu Ming. He wanted to help Lu Ming, but did not know how to do so. At this moment, Lu Ming's body had entered a critical stage. Lu Ming's soul power was shrouded in a layer of bloody aura. Boundless killing intent was constantly attacking Lu Ming's soul. Kill, kill, kill. Lu Ming's killing intent was getting stronger and stronger. It was as if he would only stop after slaughtering all living things in the world. Buzz! At this moment, there was another fluctuation coming from Lu Ming's spine. The prison-suppressing steel bloodline automatically emerged and became 10,000 feet tall, emitting endless light. Of course, all of this was Lu Ming's perception. The people outside could not see it. The words on the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline shone even brighter. Finally, 3 words appeared on the prison-suppressing steel and suppressed the third bloodline. Kill. The third bloodline surged with bloody waves and attacked the 3 words. Chapter 22-23. There were already 2 pieces of the suppressing hell steel. They emitted boundless light and contained boundless suppressive power as they pressed down on the sea of blood. In the sea of blood, the giant face kept changing into the faces of all kinds of living beings. At the same time, it kept roaring as if it was unwilling to give up. Roar! The true dragon, formed by the drop of blood, roared. It seemed to cooperate with the suppressing hell steel bloodline to suppress the third bloodline. Gradually, the waves of blood in the third bloodline became smaller and the killing intent faded. Finally, it turned back into a drop of blood and hid in Lu Ming's spine. Then the suppressing hell steel bloodline's light disappeared and flew into Lu Ming's spine and disappeared. At this time, Lu Ming's body stopped trembling and the blood aura in his body disappeared. Roar! The true dragon, formed by the drop of blood, let out a loud roar and turned back into a drop of blood that rushed into Lu Ming's heart. Then, the drop of blood turned into tiny blood threads that swam through Lu Ming's blood vessels and seeped into Lu Ming's muscles and bones. Crack, crack, crack. Lu Ming's muscles began to wriggle and his bones vibrated. There was the sound of thunder and a dragon's roar. Lu Ming's physical body was being refined and strengthened. This feels great. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He could feel that his physical body was becoming stronger at a rapid speed. He could clearly feel the speed of his strengthening. After an unknown period of time, Lu Ming felt that his physical body had doubled. The drop of blood had also shrunk a little. It was only a little, about 1% smaller. At this time, the drop of blood no longer emitted blood threads. It calmed down and seemed to have become one with his heart. At this time, Lu Ming opened his eyes. As soon as he opened his eyes, he felt sticky all over. Those were the impurities that had been expelled from the depths of his body. With a thought, flames spread out from his body and burned the impurities clean. The strength of my physical body has doubled. My combat strength has also increased by a lot. A smile appeared on Lu Ming's face. He then saw a fair and tender face, magnifying in front of Lu Ming's eyes. She scrutinized Lu Ming, looking left and right. Dandin, what are you looking at? Lu Ming curled his lips. Kid, you have a lot of secrets on you. Dandin's eyes rolled around and became more and more curious. By the way, I have a question. What blood is this? Lu Ming's consciousness sank into his heart. With a thought, the drop of blood appeared on Lu Ming's fingertip. Dandin's eyes widened as she stared at the drop of blood. Could this be the blood of the true dragon from before? Lu Ming said, Nonsense. Nonsense. Let me tell you, that true dragon from before was not a real true dragon. It was formed from this drop of blood. Dandan said. What? Lu Ming was shocked. The dragon that fought the evil god tribe's patriarch in the ancient battlefield was formed from this drop of blood. It was just a drop of blood, but it had such shocking strength. Surprised, right? Let me tell you, this isn't blood essence. It's just an ordinary drop of blood. If I'm not wrong, this should be an ordinary drop of blood from the ancestral dragon. Dandan said. His eyes were still staring at the drop of blood. Gradually his eyes burned with greed. He couldn't wait to swallow the drop of blood. Lu Ming hurriedly kept the drop of blood and put it back into his heart. Ancestral dragon? What is the ancestral dragon? Lu Ming was even more curious because he had never heard of this name before. The ancestral dragon is a legend. Legend has it that it's the oldest dragon in the world, the ancestor of all dragons. It's the first true dragon in the Tianyuan world. Dandan said leisurely. There seemed to be a hint of respect in his eyes. The ancestor of all dragons, the first true dragon. Lu Ming was also shocked. This was incredible. Could it be that the ancestral dragon is stronger than the 9 dragons? Lu Ming continued to ask. Nonsense. What are the 9 dragons? The 9 dragons are just a mutation of a true dragon. They are more talented than ordinary true dragons. That's why they have such achievements. However, compared to the ancestral dragon, they are nothing. Legend has it that the ancestral dragon is a truly invincible existence that transcends the heavenly Tao. In other words, even the heavenly Tao has to submit to him. How is this possible? The heavenly emperor controls the heavenly Tao and is the pinnacle of martial arts. He is on equal footing with the heavenly Tao. How can there be a living being that transcends the heavenly Tao? Lu Ming widened his eyes in disbelief. In his knowledge, the heavenly emperor was the limit. He was on equal footing with the heavenly Tao. There was no heavenly tribulation. He was immortal and lived as long as heaven and earth. However, there was actually a living being that transcended the heavenly Tao. This really broke his understanding. In the end, Lu Ming looked at Dandan and said suspiciously, You aren't bluffing again, are you? Bluff your head. Who's bluffing you? Let me tell you, I was lucky enough to meet the ancestral dragon once, so I'm very familiar with his aura. I will never forget it in my life. The drop of blood you got is a drop of the ancestral dragon's blood. I guess it was left behind by the ancestral dragon to suppress that passage. Dandan said, No way. In that case, the ancestral dragon has an enemy? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The ancestral dragon left a drop of blood to suppress that passage. Obviously, the ancestral dragon was on the heavenly realm side. However, he only left a drop of blood and his real body was not there. This meant that the ancestral dragon had an enemy. If it was really as Dandan said that the ancestral dragon was as powerful as the ancestral dragon, then the situation was really serious. Could it be that there was also such a terrifying existence on the side of the foreign races? Dandan also frowned, and his face was solemn. He said, Obviously there is also an existence of that level among the foreign races. Otherwise, the heavenly realm would not have fallen to this point. Once the ancestral dragon appeared, even the heavenly emperor would find it difficult to defeat him. Unfortunately, I have never seen an existence of that level. Lu Ming sighed. The war between the 2 realms was more tragic than he had imagined. With his cultivation, he could not get involved at all. The difference was too great. Then he collected his thoughts and said, How did the ancestral dragon's blood appear on my body? Is it related to the 9 dragons' blood essence? That's most likely the case. Kid, you're really lucky. Even I'm envious of you. Although this drop of blood is just an ordinary drop of blood from the ancestral dragon, and it was greatly damaged in the previous battle, it's still extraordinary. If you can refine it, the benefits it will bring to you will absolutely be amazing. I'm so envious of you, kid. What do you have? Dandan's eyes turned red as he spoke. He was really envious. He paced around Lu Ming, wishing he could take a bite out of Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt his scalp go numb. He scolded, "What are you looking at? Get lost." "Oh, right. How many days have we been back?" Dandan licked his lips and said, "It has been 10 days." 10 days? So fast? Lu Ming muttered. He felt that only a short while had passed. He did not expect it to be 10 days. I wonder how Senior Evil Sword Artist is doing? Chapter 22-24. Evil Swordsman's courtyard was near Lu Ming and the rest. Senior Mulin's. When Lu Ming walked into Evil Swordsman's courtyard, he saw Mulin's practicing a set of swordsmanship alone in the courtyard. Mulin's stopped practicing when she saw Lu Ming. She smiled brightly and said, "Lu Ming, have you recovered from your injuries? I went to see you 2 days ago, and you were still practicing." "I've fully recovered." Lu Ming smiled and teased her. "Senior sister, you've become prettier after so many years. Is that so?" Mulin's smiled brightly and sighed. "It's a pity that some people don't know how to appreciate it." "How can that be? Who doesn't know how to appreciate it? They must be blind." Lu Ming continued to smile, which made Mulin smile even brighter. "Oh, right. Where's Senior Evil Swordsman? How are his injuries?" Lu Ming asked. "You came at a bad time. Senior Evil Swordsman left yesterday with Kenfei Ryu and returned to the ancient battlefield." Mulin said. "Left?" Lu Ming was stunned. Senior Evil Swordsman said that he'd rather stay in the ancient battlefield. "It's more carefree," Mulin said. Lu Ming nodded. Perhaps Evil Swordsman had many comrades in the ancient battlefield. Countless people had died in the war back then, and many of his friends were buried there. How could he not feel pain? Senior Evil Swordsman also said that although the passageway has been completely destroyed, it will probably reappear in 100 years. Mulin's said with a frown. On the other side of the passageway was Yuan continent, where her family and friends were. 100 years. 100 years later, the foreign tribes won't be able to cross. Lu Ming opened his eyes, revealing his strong confidence. "Oh, right, senior sister, I'll be leaving soon. Come with us," Lu Ming said. "Sure," Mulin's nodded. Now, she had obtained the inheritance of a peerless expert. Her cultivation was already at the peak of quasi-emperor. It was only a matter of time before she confirmed her Tao and became a martial emperor. Once one became an emperor, as long as one passed the heavenly emperor tribulation, one would have a long lifespan. So now she would no longer run away. She wanted to grasp her own happiness. The two of them went back to Lu Ming's courtyard and found Dandan. Not long after, they found Song Tianlong and bid him farewell before flying towards the east of Two Realm City. In the ancient era, Dandan knew a person who had grasped many laws before becoming a martial emperor. That person had researched for his entire life. In his later years, he had made a major breakthrough. He might be able to help Lu Ming find a way to become a martial emperor. Now, they were going to that person's family to find that method. That clan was located in the southern part of the Grand Clarity Heaven Domain. The Grand Pure Sky Domain could be said to be the heaven domain with the widest territory in the 9 heavens domain in the heaven domain. Its size was not inferior to the Yuanlu. Two Realm City was at the westernmost part of the Grand Pure Sky Domain. Not long after, they flew out of the Two Realm City. What entered their eyes were vast mountains that towered into the clouds. There seemed to be no end to them. The origin chi in the heaven domain is indeed richer than the primordial realm. The laws are also clearer. Perhaps only the most powerful land in the 10 lands of the primordial realm, the divine fate land, can compare. Lu Ming had many thoughts in his mind. Then the 3 of them flew into the sky and flew into the distance. Dandan was very familiar with the heaven domain. They flew past mountains, and there was a public teleportation area. They were going to take the teleportation array to the south of the Grand Pure Sky Domain. Half a month later, They had arrived at the south of the Grand Pure Sky domain. They were flying in a remote area. At a glance, there was a boundless sea of bamboo. Whether it was the mountains or the plains, they were all covered with bamboo. There were all kinds of bamboo. Dandan, we've been looking for so many days. Did you lead us to the wrong place? Lu Ming asked. How is that possible? How could I lead you to the wrong place? The Gu family is in this area. They live in seclusion in a purple bamboo forest. If there are no major problems, they won't move. Dandan said. The three of them looked around, searching for the purple bamboo forest. Another half a day passed. Found it! Dandan shouted and flew forward. Lu Ming and Mulan followed behind. Soon, a sea of bamboo appeared in front of them. It was all purple bamboo. At a glance, it was a sea of purple. Even the leaves of the purple bamboo were purple. The bamboo poles were sparkling and translucent, as if they were carved out of purple jade. In the depths of the bamboo forest, they saw a very elegant palace dotted in the boundless purple sea. Ha, so many years have passed. They're still here. Let's go. Dandan smiled and flew toward the palace. However, they did not fly far before a few figures rushed out from the bamboo forest below and blocked them. There were a total of 3 people, a middle-aged man and 2 young men. They had one thing in common. They all wore jade crowns on their heads and wore snow-white robes. They looked very elegant. Gentlemen, this is the Gu family. May I know what business you have with the Gu family? The middle-aged man cupped his fists and said politely, We're here to look for someone, of course. Dandan said casually, Looking for someone? May I know who you're looking for? The middle-aged man asked. Gu Xingyue, Gu Xingxing, and the others are around. I'm here to look for them. Dandan said. His words caused the expressions of the 3 loners to change greatly, becoming somewhat unsightly. Little brother, the 2 people you're talking about are the patriarchs of the Gu family. Moreover, it's too disrespectful of you to call them by their names. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed with anger, but he suppressed it and said with some displeasure, What disrespect? They're just my juniors. If I don't call them by their names, what should I call them? Dandan pursed his lips. How dare you? I think you're here to pick a fight. Do you really think that the Gu family is easy to bully? One of the young men shouted angrily. At the same time, a long sword appeared in his hand, and Sword Chi soared into the sky. The middle-aged man's expression was also very ugly. How old did Dandan look? How dare he say that the 2 patriarchs of the Gu family were his juniors? He was obviously here to pick a fight and humiliate the Gu family. Nestle, I'll tell you the truth. These people are actually going to attack, Dandan shouted. Lu Ming was speechless. How can you talk like that? It would be strange if they weren't angry when you said that. At that moment, figures flew out from the depths of the bamboo forest. Obviously, the commotion here had alarmed the people of the Gu family. There were dozens of people in total. Some were old and some were young, but they all had one thing in common. They were all dressed in snow-white robes regardless of gender. They looked very elegant. What's going on? An old man with a fluttering white beard asked. Before the people of the Gu family could answer, Dandan shouted first, Get Gu Xingxing and Gu Xingyue to come out and see me. An old friend is here to see them. How dare you? How dare you insult the ancestors of the Gu family? Immediately, the people of the Gu family were enraged and roared. What? Ancestors? Are Gu Xingyue and Gu Xingxing dead? That can't be. Chapter 22-25. Lu Ming was speechless. How could this guy say anything? Sure enough, the Gu family's members were enraged. Even the old men were enraged, emitting terrifying auras. Oh, Emperor, we're in big trouble this time because of Dandan. Lu Ming sensed that 2 of them were emitting Emperor auras. Hey, what are you doing? The Gu family is known as the family of gentlemen. Every one of you calls yourself a gentleman. Are you trying to bully the weak with numbers? Dandan shouted. That shout caused the eyes of the Gu clan's elders and middle-aged men to flicker, and they all retracted their auras. However, the flames of fury in their eyes were still burning. How dare you insult our Gu family's ancestor? You must be taught a lesson. Otherwise, you'll think that our Gu family is easy to bully. Our Gu family won't bully the weak with numbers. Today, let me challenge you. A cold voice sounded, and then a young man stepped out. This young man wore a jade crown on his head and wore a long robe. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, looking extremely handsome. Seeing this young man walking out, the Gu family's members didn't stop him. Instead, they were confident in this young man. His cultivation is too weak. I'm not interested. Lu Ming, I'll leave him to you. Dandan waved his hand, showing no interest. This made the young man in white even angrier. I'm Guing Zhong. Who wants to enlighten me? The young man in white suppressed his anger and cupped his fists. The members of the Gu family are all gentlemen. Lu Ming thought. On the way here, he had heard Dandan mention this Gu family. According to Dandan, the Gu family was a bunch of stubborn blockheads who didn't know how to be flexible. Now that he looked at it, it was indeed so. However, Dandan had a good relationship with the Gu family in the past. I'm Lu Ming, please. Lu Ming stepped out and cupped his fists. Be careful, Gu Yingzhong warned. Then, a sword chime sounded and a long sword appeared in Gu Yingzhong's hand. A brilliant sword ray slashed at Lu Ming. 3-star illusionary emperor. The moment Gu Yingzhong made a move, Lu Ming saw through Gu Yingzhong's cultivation. Boom! Lu Ming made his move. He was very direct as he struck out with his palm. He did not use any precepts in this attack. It was purely an explosion of his physical body and saint energy. Boom! Lu Ming's palm slammed into his opponent's sword light. The sword light trembled unceasingly, and the sword whistled unceasingly. In the end, the sword light collapsed, and Lu Ming's figure retreated dozens of meters. What a powerful, fleshly body. Are you an ancient body cultivator? No, your power is holy power. You haven't become an emperor yet. At first, Gu Ying thought that Lu Ming was an archaic body cultivator, but then he realized that Lu Ming was using saint power. Once he became an emperor, his saint energy would transform into world energy. However, Lu Ming was still using saint energy, which meant that Lu Ming had not become an emperor yet. This greatly shocked Gu Ying. The rest of the Gu family were also shocked. He had not become an emperor yet, but he could take Gu Ying's attack. This kind of strength was shocking enough. After all, Gu Ying was the #1 genius of the Gu family. He was a rare figure in the Gu family. Use your full strength. You can't win against me like this, Lu Ming said. He knew that Gu Ying had not used his full strength at all. Just now it was just a probing attack. You haven't become an emperor yet. Although your combat strength is amazing, you're no match for me. Gu Ying spoke again, full of confidence. I haven't fought with my full strength. How do you know? Lu Ming was also very confident. In that case, let's fight. Gu Ying revealed his fighting spirit. His long sword vibrated, and the sword whistled unceasingly. The power of precepts burst out, causing Gu Ying's sword chi to become even more shocking. 2 types of precepts. One is the strongest precepts, and the other is the kingly precepts. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Swoosh! Gu Ying moved again. He became one with his sword, turned into a sword light, and charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming grasped the void, and the sword of death condensed. At the same time, a long river of precepts appeared on his body. This time, it really shocked the Gu family. Oh my God, what did I just see? For types of precepts, he has mastered 4 types of precepts. He hasn't become an emperor yet, How can he master 4 types of precepts? Legend has it that my Gu family has an ancestor who was extremely talented. Before he became an emperor, he also mastered many types of precepts. There was a heated discussion among the Gu family. Gu Ying's eyes flickered, but his sword light did not stop, and he continued to attack Lu Ming. Whoosh! Lu Ming waved the sword of death and faced it head-on. Boom! The two collided, and an astonishing collision broke out. Sword Qi wantonly, and many Gu family members were forced to retreat. After the two collided, their bodies shook and they retreated dozens of meters. The difference was that Lu Ming retreated a shorter distance. Second realm of the strongest law. This person is not weaker than Blue Cloud. Yan Shi and the others. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Gu Ying had 2 types of precepts, and his strongest one had already reached the second realm. Moreover, his cultivation was a 3-star illusionary emperor. There was no doubt that he was a top-notch sky pride. If it was before, Lu Ming's sword of death only contained 4 types of precepts, and he would not be a match for such a sky pride. However, Lu Ming's physical body was twice as strong as before because of the condensation of the ancestral dragon's blood. This also made Lu Ming's combat strength stronger. Therefore, Lu Ming only had to use 4 types of precepts to gain the upper hand now. Again, the battle intent in Gu Ying's eyes grew stronger, and his aura suddenly strengthened. 3 types of precepts. Lu Ming's eyes moved slightly, and a 3rd type of precepts appeared on Gu Ying's body. This was a type of precepts of the monarch Dao, and it seemed to have reached the second realm. This was a sky pride who was stronger than Blue Cloud, Yan Shi and the others. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sword light pierced through the air and charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming held the sword of death and charged towards his opponent. Clang! Clang! The two collided continuously in the air, and sword Qi overflowed and the sword whistled for thousands of miles. Fortunately, the people of the Gu family took action. A layer of light screen blocked the purple bamboo forest below. Otherwise, the purple bamboo forest within thousands of miles would be destroyed by the sword Qi. Both of them were very fast, and in the blink of an eye, they had exchanged hundreds of blows. Roar! The more they fought, the faster the blood Qi in Lu Ming's body circulated. There was a dragon's roar in his body, and a layer of dragon scales appeared on the surface of his skin. Lu Ming was also stunned. Back then, when his cultivation was still weak, dragon scales would appear on the surface of his skin because of the 9 dragons' bloodline. However, as his cultivation increased, he could already control the 9 dragons' bloodline as he wished, and dragon scales no longer appeared on his surface. But now, when he circulated his body to the extreme, a layer of dragon scales appeared on the surface of his body. Perhaps this has something to do with the ancestral dragon's blood. Lu Ming thought of the ancestral dragon's blood. Chapter 22-26. Lu Ming became more and more courageous as the battle went on. Even though Gu Ying had used 3 types of laws, 2 of which were at the second realm, they were still blocked by Lu Ming. It was difficult for him to do anything to Lu Ming. Clang! Suddenly, Gu Ying's long sword buzzed, and the sword light became even brighter. This is the 4th level of law. This time, even Lu Ming was shocked. Gu Ying had actually mastered the 4th type of law, which was also a kind of king law. But fortunately, it was not at the second realm, but only at the first realm. But this was no small matter. A 3-star illusionary emperor, and at such a young age, had already mastered 4 types of laws. One of the strongest types of law, 3 of the king laws. And among them, the strongest type of law and one of the king laws had reached the second realm, and the other 2 king laws were also at the first realm of perfection. This kind of talent was amazing. For example, Blue Cloud and Yan Shi, who were known as the top geniuses of the heaven domain, were about the same age as Gu Ying, but they had only mastered 2 types of laws. I didn't expect that the Gu family would produce another top genius, Dandin whispered, and his eyes were also full of admiration. Many of the Gu family members also showed a proud look. Boom! Using the fourth type of law, although it was only at the first realm of perfection, it also increased Gu Ying's strength by a lot. This time, Lu Ming was sent flying by the impact. Lu Ming, I have to admit that your strength is indeed amazing, and it's the first time I've seen it in my life. Seeing that it's not easy for you to cultivate today's matter, you can leave. Gu Ying said, Thank you. Lu Ming cupped his fists. Gu Ying could indeed be called a gentleman, and this kind of bearing was not something that everyone had. However, Lu Ming's purpose of coming today had not been achieved, so how could he leave just like that? But the battle between you and me is not over yet. Lu Ming smiled again. You haven't used your full strength yet? Gu Ying's eyes narrowed and he said solemnly, Of course. Lu Ming smiled, and the color of the death sword in his hand became even more dazzling, and there were 2 more colors. They were the alchemy and equipment laws. 6 laws. Gu Ying cried out in surprise, his eyes revealing a look of disbelief. The other members of the Gu family were also shocked. He had not even become a martial emperor, yet he could control 6 types of laws. This was simply unbelievable. Could it be that the legends were true? That one of their ancestors had controlled many kinds of laws before becoming an emperor? Originally, there were some people who were skeptical about the legend of their ancestor being able to control many kinds of laws before becoming a martial emperor. That was because such a thing was simply too inconceivable. Furthermore, such a long time had passed. Who knew if that legend was true or false? However, after seeing Lu Ming today, they knew that the legend was true. But their shock was not over yet, because a hammer appeared in Lu Ming's left hand. Hammer of Chaos. It was composed of the law of primal chaos and 6 other laws. At this moment, the people from the Gu family were completely stunned. Even Gu Yingzhong was the same. After a long while, they finally reacted. Heavens! Supreme laws of nature. 2 supreme laws of nature. A person who has not yet become an emperor not only controls many kinds of laws, but also 2 supreme laws of nature at the same time. How did he do it? Unbelievable, unbelievable. Whether it was the old or the young of the Gu family, they were all shocked beyond words. Controlling 2 supreme laws of nature had completely broken their understanding of the laws. Naturally, they were shocked. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, figures flew out from the depths of the purple bamboo forest. There were at least 100 of them, and a few of them exuded an astonishing cultivation base. They were all martial emperors. Lu Ming secretly sighed. The heaven realm was indeed the heaven realm. After countless years of inheritance, the experts were indeed astonishing. It was just the Gu family, but there were already 4 or 5 martial emperors. It was really hard to imagine. For example, there were not many martial emperors in the entire territory of the primordial mountain. In fact, it was not that the strength of the primordial realm was really so different from the heaven realm. There was a gap, but it would not be so ridiculous. The main reason was that many powerhouses of the primordial realm had left the primordial realm and came to the heaven realm to participate in the war and cultivate. For example, some of the overlord forces in the divine fate land were also very powerful. Many powerhouses stayed there. Greetings, Patriarch. The people of the Gu family bowed one after another to a middle-aged, elegant man. This person was the Patriarch of the Gu family. All right, let's end this battle here. The Patriarch of the Gu family said. Yes. Gu Ying nodded heavily, withdrew his aura, and took a few steps back. The Patriarch of the Gu family looked at Lu Ming, full of amazement, and said, I didn't expect that there would be such a person in this world. Before becoming a martial emperor, he has already mastered multiple laws, and even 2 supreme laws of nature. What a miracle! Patriarch Gu, you flatter me. It's a pity that it's difficult to become a martial emperor. Lu Ming sighed. Indeed, my Gu family's ancestor also had an amazing figure. Before becoming a martial emperor, he also mastered multiple laws of nature. In the end, he did not become a martial emperor. What a pity! You all came here because you heard the legend of my Gu family's ancestor, right? The patriarch of the Gu family said. That's right, that's indeed the case. Lu Ming nodded. Since you have something to ask of us, why are you insulting my Gu family's ancestor? What is the meaning of this? An elder of the Gu family walked out, still looking a little indignant. The patriarch of the Gu family also looked at Dandan. What insult? What do you juniors know? I already know Gu Xingyue, Gu Xingxing, and the others. Gu Lingtian, who has mastered multiple laws before becoming a martial emperor, is also my good friend. Dandan said casually, You dare! The people of the Gu family were furious. The patriarch of the Gu family raised his hand, and the people of the Gu family quieted down. May I ask who are you? The patriarch of the Gu family asked. Then you'll have to see clearly. Dandan curled his lips. His body suddenly changed, and he transformed into his original form. Then his body rapidly expanded into an incomparably huge tortoise floating in the sky. This is the legendary top 10 battle beasts, the world divine tortoise. Someone exclaimed in shock. Everyone of the Gu family widened their eyes. The top 10 battle beasts had become legends by now, and they had long been forgotten. In the ancient war, the top 10 battle beasts were either dead or injured. They had long disappeared without a trace. Many people speculated that the top 10 battle beasts might have all died in battle. They did not expect that one of the top 10 battle beasts, the world divine tortoise, would actually appear here. You are the legendary senior tortoise. The patriarch of the Gu family was the first to react. Of course, it's me, the old man, the giant tortoise said, and then quickly shrank, turning into a little Taoist priest. Senior tortoise, what's with your cultivation? The patriarch of the Gu family asked. His attitude became respectful. Chapter 22-27. Sigh, it's all because of the battle back then. I almost died. If it weren't for my peerless strength, you wouldn't be able to see me now. Dandan sighed at first, but he soon became energetic and said, Who's the oldest in the Gu family now? The oldest in the Gu family now is the son of ancestor Lingtian, ancestor Gu Xinghue. Gu Xinghue, so it's that little brat. Ask him to come see me. Dandan said casually, acting like a senior expert. The eyelids of the other members of the Gu family twitched, and their faces were a little ugly. Gu Xinghue was the current ancestor of the Gu family. He had lived for a long time since ancient times, but now he was called a little brat by Dandan. What were they? However, when they remembered that he was the world turtle from back then, they understood. The top 10 battle beasts from back then were all peak powerhouses, and they had lived for a long time. Senior turtle, please wait for a moment. I'll report to the ancestor. The Gu family leader cupped his fists and then went to the palace in the depths of the Gu family. Lu Ming and the others didn't have to wait for long before they saw the Gu family leader and an old man with a head of white hair flying over. The old man had a ruddy face and white hair. He was in high spirits, and his eyes were extremely bright. The Gu family leader followed behind the old man with a respectful expression. Greetings, ancestor. The members of the Gu family bowed to the old man at the same time. Needless to say, this was the oldest ancestor of the Gu family, Gu Xinghue. No need to be so polite. Gu Xinghue waved his hand and glanced at Dandan. His spiritual consciousness spread out and sensed Dandan's aura. He showed a hint of joy on his face and said, Senior Turtle, it's really you. Ha ha ha, isn't it me? Little brat, I haven't seen you for many years, and you've become so old. Ha ha, I'm still young. Dandan laughed. Senior Turtle, I just heard that there's a little brother who has mastered many kinds of laws before becoming an emperor. He has even mastered 2 supreme laws. Are you here for the method left behind by my father? Gu Xinghui asked straightforwardly. That's right. I've heard that Gu Lingtian has been researching for his entire life, and before his time was up he made great progress. That's why I'm here to see what he's come up with, Dandan said. Gu Xinghui looked at Lu Ming in surprise. He had lived for a very long time. When he heard that someone had mastered multiple kinds of laws before achieving the martial monarch realm, including 2 of the strongest laws, even his heart could not help but tremble. He could not help but feel curious. Little brother, can you reveal your nomological laws to this old man? Gu Xinghui said. All right. Lu Ming nodded. With a thought, the 7 types of laws appeared one after another. Gu Xinghui's eyes were bright as he sighed. A miracle, a miracle! After a while, he said, back then, Father did indeed make a great breakthrough. He once said that he finally found the method to become a monarch. Unfortunately, he couldn't do it himself and could only leave it for the fated ones. Lu Ming's eyes lit up, and his heart could not help but beat faster. Gu Xinghui's words were obviously saying that Gu Lingtian had really found the method back then. Haha, Gu Lingtian is indeed a rare hero. I didn't expect him to really find the method. It's a pity for him. If he wasn't so ambitious, his achievements wouldn't be much weaker than mine. Dandan sighed. It was rare to see such an exaggerated person. Gu Xinghui's eyes were also a little sad. Senior Turtle, come with me, Gu Xinghui said. Then he made a gesture of invitation and walked towards the depths of the Gu family. Lu Ming, Dandan, and Mulins followed. The rest of the Gu family also dispersed. Lu Ming and the other 2 followed Gu Xinghui. They flew past a large number of palaces and came to a quiet place. It was very quiet here. There was only a small house made of purple bamboo. It was quiet and elegant. Outside the house, there was a small courtyard. There was a stone table and a few stone benches on the side. Senior Turtle, take a seat. I'll be back soon, Gu Xinghui said. Then he walked into the bamboo house. After a while, he took out a bronze box and walked out. This is left behind by Father, Gu Xinghui said. Then he opened the bronze box. A jade box appeared inside. My father placed his lifetime of research into this jade box. However, no one has been able to open this jade box since my father passed away. There is a formation placed on top of it. If one tries to forcefully open it, this jade box, including the things inside, will be turned into ashes. Gu Xinghui said. It can't be opened? That can't be. Dandan was speechless. Lu Ming's heart also sank. Yes, but I guess that Father wanted to leave it to a fated person like little brother Lu Ming, who has mastered many laws before becoming an emperor. Little brother Lu Ming, you can take a look. Perhaps you can open it. Gu Xinghui handed the jade box to Lu Ming. Lu Ming took it and carefully studied it. The jade box was covered with fine runes. Lu Ming looked at it for a long time, but he didn't find anything. Let me see, Dandan shouted. Lu Ming handed the jade box to Dandan. Dandan studied it carefully. He was an expert in formations. Sure enough, he made a big discovery. His eyes lit up and he said, No wonder no one can open it. It turns out that such a condition is required. Haha. Dandan, you can see it? Lu Ming asked. Of course, don't you know who I am? I'm the leader of the top 10 beasts, the world turtle. There's no formation that I can't see. If you want to open this jade box, you need to meet 2 conditions. First, you need to use sacred power. Second, you need to use 5 laws at the same time, but it's not specified which 5 laws. If these 2 conditions are separated, it's very simple. However, when combined, it's very harsh because both conditions need to be fulfilled by the same person. Dandan explained. They were stunned for a moment, then they immediately reacted. The condition was obvious. It required a person who hadn't become an emperor yet to master 5 laws at the same time. This was what Gu Lingtian had left for people like him. Lu Ming, give it a try. Dandan handed the jade box to Lu Ming. Lu Ming took it and followed Dandan's instructions. He circulated his sacred power and controlled the 5 laws at the same time, shrouding them on the jade box. Buzz! The jade box began to move. It began to emit light and the runes on it flowed. Finally, with a click, the jade box opened. There was a jade token in the jade box. It's open! Gu Xinghui was also very excited. Lu Ming, Dandan, and Mulins were also very excited. Lu Ming, quickly take a look. Is there a way for you to successfully prove your Tao and become an emperor? Dandan said excitedly. Lu Ming took a deep breath, took out the jade token, and sank his spiritual consciousness into it. My life is Gu Lingtian. Immediately a voice rang in Lu Ming's mind. Chapter 22-28. Lu Ming learned about Gu Lingtian's life from the jade token. Gu Lingtian was a peerless genius. He was the most dazzling star in the heaven realm during that era. However, Gu Lingtian's ambition was higher than the sky. He wanted to walk a different path, a path that no one had walked before. Before he became a martial emperor, he relied on his terrifying talent to cultivate several types of laws. He wanted to use these laws to create a small world when he became a martial emperor. Unfortunately, in the end, he was unable to complete this path. He was blocked, and this block lasted for an entire lifetime. Gu Lingtian spent his entire life researching. Finally, in his later years, he found a way. Before he became a martial emperor, he had already mastered many types of laws. If he wanted to become a martial emperor, he had to maintain balance. This was because it was too difficult to condense the heart of the realm when one became a martial emperor. The laws would collide with each other and burst out with terrifying force that could tear the martial emperor's saint heart and body. That was why it was difficult to become a martial emperor. However, as long as the laws reached a balance, they wouldn't burst out with tearing force. Then, one would be able to successfully evolve the heart of the realm and become a martial emperor. However, it was difficult to achieve a balance with many laws. In this aspect, not being a martial emperor gave one an advantage. That was because an Elysian child controlled one of the strongest laws. If you controlled other laws, it would be very difficult for you to achieve a balance. According to Gu Lingtian's speculation, a martial emperor could achieve a balance with 3, 6, or 9 martial emperor laws and become a martial emperor. However, before becoming a martial emperor, those who had the ability and talent to control many types of laws were all martial emperors. They were all martial emperors. No matter how many laws were combined, it was difficult to achieve a balance with one supreme law. Because the supreme law was too powerful, it was difficult for other laws to maintain a balance with it. Gu Lingtian speculated that if a person could control 3 supreme laws and 6 martial emperor laws, they would be able to maintain a balance and successfully evolve the heart of the realm. Or if a person could control 6 or 9 supreme laws, they would also be able to evolve the heart of the realm. 3 supreme laws and 6 martial emperor laws. I can do it! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He was overwhelmed by ecstasy. Currently, he had already grasped 2 supreme laws and 5 monarch laws. He was completely capable of comprehending 1 more supreme law and 1 more monarch law. Gu Lingtian also mentioned that the rules had to be on the same level in order to maintain a balance. For example, if one of the laws had reached the 2nd realm while the others were all at the 1st realm, that would not do either. Lu Ming secretly rejoiced that he had yet to reach the 2nd realm of laws. He would be able to achieve the martial monarch realm once he mastered the 1st level of the martial monarch realm. Lu Ming's words delighted Dandan and Mulins. Lu Ming, quick, let me take a look. Dandan shouted. Lu Ming handed the jade tablet to Dandan. Dandan immediately looked at it. After reading it, Dandan fell silent. Then, he handed the jade tablet to Gu Xinghui. After that, Mulins also took a look at it. What a pity. Gu Lingtian is indeed amazing. In the end, he managed to grasp one supreme law and 8 monarch laws. However, he still could not achieve a balance and could not become a martial monarch. Dandan sighed. Gu Xinghui's eyes were filled with sadness. The method that father recorded might seem simple, but it's actually extremely difficult to achieve. It's impossible for anyone to control multiple laws before becoming a martial monarch. Only someone with the talent of the Elysian child would be able to do it. However, it is difficult for a person to master more than 2 supreme laws at the same time. Therefore, almost no one can achieve this condition. In my opinion, father's method is completely tailor-made for brother Lu Ming. Gu Xinghui sighed. That's right. Dandan also sighed. Mulins was also happy for Lu Ming. Brother Lu Ming, I hope that you can become a martial monarch. This way, you will have fulfilled father's last wish. Gu Xinghui said. Definitely. Lu Ming was extremely determined. How about this? I will bring you to a place. It will help you comprehend many laws and become a martial monarch as soon as possible. Gu Xinghui said. Then, Gu Xinghui stepped into the air and left. Lu Ming, Dandan, and Mulins followed. They went deeper into the purple bamboo forest. Not long after, they came in front of a huge ancient tree. This ancient tree was hundreds of meters tall. It was as thick as a dozen people hugging it. Gu Xinghui waved his hand, and a light door appeared on the ancient tree. It turns out that there is a small world hidden here. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. It was obvious that the light door on the ancient tree was the entrance to a small world. Gu Xinghui entered the light door. Lu Ming and the others also entered one by one. As soon as they entered the light door, they came to another world. The laws here are so clear. It gives me a refreshing feeling, and my heart feels empty. As soon as they entered this small world, Lu Ming and the others felt something unusual. Especially Lu Ming, he felt like he was sitting under the tree of enlightenment and cultivating. Follow me. Gu Xinghui smiled and stepped into the air. After flying for a long distance, they came to a mountain range. However, this mountain range was barren. There was no vegetation at all. There was only a giant tree in the middle of the mountain range. That's the tree of enlightenment. Looking at that giant tree, Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Yes, there was indeed a tree of enlightenment here. Although the species was different from Lu Ming's, it was indeed the tree of enlightenment. And this tree of enlightenment was completely incomparable to Lu Ming's. Lu Ming's tree of enlightenment had been cultivated until now. It had taken root on a mountain peak in the mountain river diagram and was more than 30 meters tall. However, the one in front of them was at least 1,000 meters tall. The ancient tree towered into the sky, and the great Tao surrounded the branches. Everyone felt that their hearts were empty and their minds were incomparably clear. The effect was many times better than Lu Ming's. Great! Your Gu family actually secretly cultivated an ancient tree of enlightenment. Amazing! Dandan grinned and sighed, his eyes shining. Unfortunately, after countless years of cultivation, it still hasn't fully matured. Gu Xinghui sighed. It's already not bad to be able to cultivate it to 1,000 meters tall. I also had one back then, but unfortunately it wasn't mature either. It was destroyed in the later battle. As he said that, he glanced at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. His tree of enlightenment was cultivated from a dead branch, and that branch appeared together with Dandan back then. Could it be that Dandan's tree of enlightenment was the same one? That was very likely. You can cultivate here from now on. Gu Xinghui said. Haha, good. Lu Ming, this is the most suitable place for your current stage. Dandan said to Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded. Indeed. Chapter 22-29. The Gu family's enlightenment ancient tree was already 1,000 meters tall. Its effect was much better than his own Enlightenment ancient tree. It was the most suitable place to comprehend the laws. You guys can cultivate here. If you need anything, just send me a message. Gu Xinghui left behind a message and a voice transmission jade talisman. His figure moved and disappeared. Lu Ming and the other two headed towards the Enlightenment ancient tree. As they approached, they found a few people sitting cross-legged under the Enlightenment ancient tree, cultivating. Obviously, they were the Gu family's people. Lu Ming also finally understood why Guingzhong could control 4 types of laws at such a young age. He had even reached the second level of 2 of them. It was definitely related to the Enlightenment ancient tree. When the 3 of them arrived, someone from the Gu family sensed them and opened his eyes to look at Lu Ming and the other 2. He was surprised. This was because he did not know Lu Ming and the other 2 at all. However, he was only surprised and did not say anything. This was because this was the Gu family's secret place. Without the Gu family's higher-ups leading the way, no one would be able to find it. Obviously, Lu Ming, Dandan, and Mulins were able to enter because the higher-ups of the Gu family had brought them here. Since it was the higher-ups of the Gu family who brought them here, he naturally would not say anything. He nodded to Lu Ming and the other 2 and closed his eyes to continue cultivating. The 2 of you can cultivate here. I'm going to find a place to go into seclusion and break through to the true Emperor realm. Dandan said, I hope you break through soon. Otherwise, when I become an emperor, I'll catch up to you very quickly. Lu Ming laughed. Dream on, you want to catch up to me? Dandan curled his lips unhappily. Then his figure flashed and disappeared into the distance in an instant. Lu Ming and Mulins came under the Enlightenment ancient tree. They each found a piece of green stone and sat cross-legged on it. The Enlightenment ancient tree was 1,000 meters tall and was incomparably huge. Between the branches and leaves, there were grand daos. Whether it was comprehending laws or divine abilities, it was very useful here. To comprehend 9 types of laws, 3 supreme laws, and 6 monarch Tao laws, I'm still lacking 1 supreme law and 1 monarch Tao law. Which 2 should I comprehend? Lu Ming pondered. If it's monarch Tao law, why don't I comprehend the penetration law? Lu Ming's heart moved. The law of penetration and the power of penetration were extremely shocking. If one could comprehend it, one's attack power would increase by a lot. Furthermore, the 6-feathered divine wings that Dandan imparted to Lu Ming contained 6 types of laws. Apart from the law of array, alchemy, and weapons, the law of penetration was also one of them. After comprehending the law of penetration, the power of the 6-feathered divine wings would increase explosively. After deciding on the monarch Tao law, it was time to decide which supreme law to comprehend. Of the remaining 8 supreme laws, Lu Ming was most optimistic about the destiny law, because the destiny law was indeed mysterious and powerful. However, the destiny law had a high requirement of talent. It was also the most difficult to cultivate. Lu Ming thought for a while, then shook his head and eliminated the destiny law. Now that I have the chaos law and death law, I'm not weak in terms of offense. The next law doesn't necessarily have to increase my offense. Increasing my defense or vitality is also very important. Then the life law. In the end, Lu Ming decided to comprehend the life law. Xiang Xiang had the life body, so Lu Ming was more familiar with the life law. Moreover, once one grasped the life law, their vitality would become astonishing. Even if they suffered some fatal injuries, they would be able to recover quickly. This would greatly increase their ability to survive. For the next 2 laws, Lu Ming decided to comprehend the life law and the penetration law. Closing his eyes, Lu Ming's mind became empty. His mind merged with heaven and earth as he captured the fluctuations of the laws. Penetration. Penetrate everything. Nothing can stop it, Lu Ming murmured and understood something. As Lu Ming comprehended more and more laws, he had more experience in comprehending laws. Hence, he became more and more efficient in comprehending laws. In just a few days, the penetration law had reached the entry level. Half a month later, Lu Ming successfully comprehended the life law and reached the entry level. In this way, he had already grasped 9 types of laws. What he needed to do now was to increase the maturity of the laws. The alchemy law, tools law, penetration law, and life law. Now, Lu Ming still had 4 types of laws that had not reached the first level of perfection. However, the alchemy law and tools law were already about 90% mature. Lu Ming wholeheartedly comprehended the 4 types of laws. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. On this day, thunder rumbled in the distance. Lu Ming, who was cultivating, and the people of the Gu family all opened their eyes. Someone has become an emperor and is going through the emperor tribulation. Someone from the Gu family whispered, "Senior Sister Mullins is going to become an emperor." Lu Ming smiled. Mullins had obtained the inheritance of a peerless expert. The process of inheritance lasted for 5 years. In these 5 years, Mullins's cultivation soared to the limit of the boundary emperor before stopping. Mullins was originally just a hair away from becoming an emperor. Now, after more than half a year of accumulation and polishing, Mullins finally crossed the bottleneck and became an emperor. Lu Ming took a step forward and came to a place not far from Mullins. Mullins's body was covered in a layer of bloodlight, which turned into attacks to resist the heavenly tribulation. It seemed that Mullins was still quite relaxed. Not long after, Mullins successfully passed the heavenly tribulation. Boom! At this moment, a shocking change occurred in Mullins's body. It was the evolution of the Sacred Heart. The sacred energy turned into the power of the world. A faint emperor's aura was emitted from Mullins's body. Half an hour later, Mullins's aura stabilized, and she officially entered the martial emperor realm. Senior Sister, congratulations on confirming your Tao and becoming an emperor. Lu Ming stepped forward and congratulated Lu Ming. Mullins looked at Lu Ming with joy on her face. She said, "I believe that junior brother will become an emperor soon." "Little girl, not bad. You became an emperor so quickly. It seems that you are really suitable for Xue Xiu's cultivation path." A voice was heard. Then, with a flash of light, Dandan's figure appeared. "Dandan, you also broke through?" Lu Ming looked at Dandan and asked curiously, "Of course. What kind of existence am I? A mere true emperor is nothing. I will soon break through to the great emperor realm, then the heavenly emperor realm. Finally, I will surpass the past and break through to the supreme realm." Ha ha ha! Dandan laughed proudly, as if he was thinking of a beautiful future. His eyes were shining. This guy, Lu Ming despised him, but he was also happy for him. Dandan laughed for a while and said, "Lu Ming, come. Let's spar and see how you have comprehended the laws during this period. You are now a true emperor. If I spar with you, won't I be abused?" Lu Ming curled his lips and immediately refused. Chapter 2230. Ha ha ha, I know you're afraid of me. However, I won't use the power of the world. I'll just spar with you using the laws. Why are you still afraid? Dandan grinned and looked at Lu Ming from the corner of his eyes. Lu Ming was unhappy and said, "Come on, let's go. Let's spar a little further away." After they flew a distance away, they began to fight. Dandan did not use his cultivation to suppress Lu Ming. He only used a little bit of the power of the world to activate the laws and fought with Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming was defeated by Dandan in one move. This made Lu Ming speechless. Was the difference so big? Although Dandan also controlled 9 types of laws, he also controlled 9 types of laws. However, after colliding with Dandan's laws, his laws were completely vulnerable. Lu Ming, although you control a lot of laws, it's only the most superficial fusion. You don't have an ancient scripture to fully unleash the power of these laws. Therefore, the power is too weak. Dandan said, It's a pity that I don't have an ancient scripture. Lu Ming also had a bitter face. Although he created the Hammer of Chaos and the Sword of Death, he had only created them recently and was far from reaching the major completion. Their power was limited. Those ancient scriptures were not created by others. Those who created the ancient scriptures also created those ancient scriptures according to the laws they controlled. Right now, you're just inexperienced. You can't fully unleash the magical powers you created. If you can fully unleash the laws you control, the power will definitely be stronger than many ancient scriptures. After all, you created them yourself. Dandan explained. Dandan, since you're so experienced, why don't you teach me? Lu Ming smiled and looked at Dandan. Haha, now you know how powerful I am. Don't worry, I want to spar with you because I want to guide you. Come again, use your full strength. Dandan laughed loudly. He was very pleased with himself. With one hand behind his back, he had the demeanor of a peerless expert. This time, Lu Ming didn't make things difficult for Dandan. After all, he had a favor to ask. Whoosh! Then Lu Ming's figure flashed, and the hammer of primal chaos appeared in his hand, and he smashed it toward Dandan. Dandan pointed out, and at least 5 types of laws exploded out, forming a finger energy that slammed into the primal chaos hammer. The primal chaos hammer violently trembled before exploding. Lu Ming's hammer of primal chaos also contained 5 types of nomological laws, but they were like tofu. On the other hand, Dandan's 5 types of nomological laws were like steel, as they immediately defeated Lu Ming's hammer of primal chaos. Again, Lu Ming then charged towards Dandan, resisting with his laws. But every time, Lu Ming was completely defeated. A day later, Lu Ming was already exhausted. He then stopped, but in this battle, Lu Ming had gained a lot. He was more proficient in the use of the nomological laws. When he used the hammer of primal chaos or the sword of death, the various nomological laws complemented each other, and the explosive power also increased. Dandan, although bragging every day and sometimes unreliable, was really experienced. Moreover, the World Divine Turtle was known as the World. Its innate control of the nomological laws was unparalleled, and it was stronger than the other top 10 battle beasts. Therefore, it could often point out Lu Ming's shortcomings in the use of the nomological laws, allowing Lu Ming to improve rapidly. Go back and digest it well. We'll continue the competition in 7 days. Dandan grinned and went to Enlightenment. The few of them returned to the Enlightenment ancient tree and continued to cultivate. Mulins had been watching Lu Ming and Dandan fight before. She had gained a lot and needed to digest it. In the following days, Lu Ming had one more thing to do, and that was to fight with Dandan. Every 7 days he would fight with Dandan. His comprehension of the various nomological laws and the use of the nomological laws were improving by leaps and bounds. The mastery of the 4 nomological laws of alchemy, tools, penetration, and life increased very quickly. After all, this was under the Enlightenment ancient tree. Coupled with Lu Ming's own talent, it was difficult not to improve. At the same time, Lu Ming's 2 self-created supernatural powers, the hammer of primal chaos and the sword of death, were getting stronger and stronger. Not only was the original use of the nomological laws, but also the penetration nomological laws. One supernatural power contained 7 nomological laws, and its power was constantly increasing. Finally, after Lu Ming cultivated here for a year, he had another nomological law that reached perfection. Alchemy nomological laws. The alchemy nomological laws reached perfection, and the nomological laws formed a river. Lu Ming's physical body and saint power were tempered again and greatly improved. Without a doubt, Lu Ming's combat strength was also increasing rapidly. After cultivating here for a year and a half, Lu Ming's tool's nomological laws had also reached perfection. Until now, Lu Ming still had the penetration nomological laws and life nomological laws that had not reached perfection in the first realm. The life nomological law was an ultimate nomological law, and relatively speaking, the speed of improvement was much slower. Far away from the Enlightenment ancient tree, on a flat ground, Lu Ming and Dandan continued to fight. Although Lu Ming's strength was increasing rapidly, Dandan's improvement was even faster. Lu Ming felt that the 9 nomological laws that Dandan controlled had probably reached the second realm. Lu Ming was naturally no match for him. The two of them exchanged a blow, and Lu Ming retreated. Unfortunately, my ultimate nomological laws can't be merged together. Lu Ming sighed. Whether it was the hammer of chaos or the sword of death, they both only contained one ultimate nomological law. If other ultimate nomological laws could be merged, the power would probably skyrocket. However, if ultimate nomological laws could not be merged, it would be too difficult to merge them. Not necessarily, Dandan said. It's said that it's impossible for one person to control 2 ultimate nomological laws, but didn't you do it? Since you can control multiple ultimate nomological laws, you can naturally merge them into one supernatural power. Speaking of which, Lu Ming, your path is completely different from others. You cultivated the ancient scriptures created by others, but it can't fully stimulate your potential. Other people's ancient scriptures have a single ultimate nomological law as the core, but you control multiple ultimate nomological laws. If you want to fully stimulate your potential, you need to create your own. Dandan was rarely serious as he seriously guided Lu Ming. Lu Ming was greatly moved. Indeed, those peerless heroes who created various ancient scriptures did not control multiple ultimate nomological laws. At most, they controlled one ultimate nomological law, and then combined it with other monarch nomological laws and ordinary nomological laws to create it. None of them were suitable for Lu Ming. If Lu Ming wanted to tap into his full potential, he had to create his own ancient scriptures and supernatural powers. Lu Ming felt suddenly enlightened. He felt that he could see his future path. Dandan, thank you. Lu Ming thanked Dandan very seriously. Ha ha ha, who am I? The leader of the top 10 battle beasts, an invincible, peerless genius. Do you believe me now? Dandan grinned and laughed, feeling very comfortable and happy. Come, continue. Let me guide you so that you can merge ultimate nomological laws as soon as possible. Dandan shouted, full of enthusiasm. Although Dandan did not control multiple ultimate nomological laws, his experience was there, and it was very helpful to Lu Ming. However, it was too difficult to merge different ultimate nomological laws into one supernatural power. Chapter 2231. Winter passed and spring came. Time flew by. Lu Ming had been cultivating here for 3 years. After 3 years of hard work, his law of penetration had reached the first level of perfection. Lu Ming's physical body and saint power had become stronger after repeated refinements. His physical strength was incomparably strong, and his saint power was condensed to the extreme. Moreover, his application of the law had become stronger, and the power of his self-created divine powers had increased by a lot. Compared to 3 years ago, Lu Ming's combat strength had increased by leaps and bounds. However, his law of life was still a little short and had not reached perfection. It was still at the 99% stage. Lu Ming was not in a hurry. It was indeed a little slow to improve his ultimate law, and this was still cultivating under the ancient tree of enlightenment. If it were in the outside world, it would be impossible to cultivate so many laws to the first level of perfection in 3 years. On the same flat ground, Lu Ming and Dandan were still fighting. Swoosh! Swoosh! Lu Ming held the sword of death in his hand and slashed out continuously. Its power was extremely shocking. However, Dandan was relaxed. With a casual wave of his hand, various laws circulated and easily blocked Lu Ming's attack. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Lu Ming's eyes were firm and persistent. He was trying to integrate the law of chaos into the sword of death. Just a little bit more, merge for me. Suddenly, Lu Ming roared. The law of death in his body surged. The sword of death in his hand vibrated constantly, and the sword's roar shook the sky. Buzz! Suddenly, the power of the sword of death skyrocketed, and a terrifying sword light slashed at Dandan. This sword not only contained the power of the law of death, but also the heavy power of the law of chaos. Success! Lu Ming was ecstatic. However, in the next moment, Lu Ming's body trembled. He felt a terrifying tearing force from the two ultimate laws. His palm was about to be torn apart by this tearing force. Nestle! On the opposite side, Dandan shouted. With a shake of his palm, a tortoise shell appeared and blocked in front of him like a shield. Boom! With a violent explosion, Dandan's tortoise shell shield exploded. Dandan quickly retreated, avoiding the tip of the sword of death. Kid, you've succeeded? Dandan looked at Lu Ming. The sword of death in Lu Ming's hand disappeared. His palms and arms were covered in cracks, blood seeping out from them. Circulating the law of life, the wound on his arm quickly healed. Unfortunately, the two types of laws will still clash and erupt with astonishing power, causing me to be injured. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. That's normal. You've just started the fusion and aren't familiar with it yet. However, this proves that we're on the right track. As long as you keep trying, the side effects will disappear. Ha ha ha, we've created history. If this were to spread, I'm afraid it would scare people to death. Dandan was extremely excited. Lu Ming also revealed a smile. He understood that after such a long period of hard work, he had finally succeeded. Although the fusion of two types of supreme laws would cause him to be injured, it was still incomplete. As it continued to be perfected in the future, these side effects would definitely disappear. Under the effect of the law of life, the wound on Lu Ming's arm had completely healed. Dandan again. Lu Ming rushed towards Dandan. Where could he find such a good sparring partner? Boom! The sword of death reappeared in Lu Ming's hand. Immediately, the law of primal chaos erupted and merged with the sword of death. Buzz! This time he immediately succeeded. However, the fusion still clashed and a terrifying power erupted, causing Lu Ming's arm to be covered in wounds. However, the power of this sword strike had reached an astonishing level. Dandan needed to focus her attention in order to block it. This could be considered Lu Ming's strongest killing move. If I integrate the law of life in the future, the power will definitely be stronger. Lu Ming thought to himself. Lu Ming was about to continue looking for Dandan when a figure flashed and a white-haired old man appeared. It was Gu Xinghui. This was the first time Gu Xinghui had appeared in 3 years. Little brother Lu Ming, it seems that you have made great progress in these years. Gu Xinghui smiled. Senior, thank you for bringing me here to cultivate. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have to cultivate for a few more years to achieve my current achievements. Lu Ming said. Kid, why are you here today? Dandan walked over and said casually. Of course, there's something big. Gu Xinghui said. Something big? What's the big deal? Dandan asked curiously. Mount Eternal has appeared. It is said that the indestructible ancient scripture is hidden in Mount Eternal. Gu Xinghui said. What? Dandan almost jumped up. His eyes lit up as he stared at Gu Xinghui and said, Is that true? It's true. Mount Eternal has appeared in the void and is now hovering above Alcade Ancient City. Now, countless experts from the Taiching celestial domain are rushing over to get the indestructible ancient scripture. So, I'm here to ask if you want to go. Gu Xinghui said. Of course, we're going. We can't miss the indestructible ancient scripture of the indestructible emperor. Dandan's eyes lit up. By the side, Lu Ming and Mulan were somewhat dumbstruck. They had never heard of Mount Eternal or the indestructible ancient scripture. Is the indestructible ancient scripture that magical? Lu Ming asked. Of course. It is said that those who cultivate the indestructible ancient scripture will be immortal and have extremely strong vitality. Even a trace of blood, a strand of hair, or a trace of soul can be recovered. Although the law of life has strong vitality, it is far inferior to cultivating the indestructible ancient scripture. The indestructible ancient scripture is the trump card of the indestructible emperor. Do you know about the emperor? He is in existence on par with the Chaos Emperor. Dandan rattled on, explaining a bunch of things. Lu Ming was shocked. He was shocked by the incredible power of the indestructible ancient scripture and the strength of the indestructible emperor. According to Dandan, those who could be called venerable sovereigns were all invincible figures. They were known as venerable sovereigns and were invincible in the world. For example, the Chaos Emperor and the Indestructible Emperor. If the Indestructible Emperor is so strong, how can he be so strong? Then how can others get the indestructible ancient scripture? Won't we be courting death if we go? Lu Ming asked curiously. The Indestructible Emperor died a long time ago. Dandan said. Died. How can such a person who cultivated the indestructible ancient scripture die? Lu Ming was shocked and puzzled. Sai, it's all because of the evil god tribe. In the ancient era, at the beginning of the war, the indestructible emperor was besieged by several people of the evil god tribe. In the end, nothing was left of him. Even if he had the indestructible ancient scripture, he still died. Since the fall of the indestructible emperor, Mount Eternal, where he lived, escaped into the endless void and wandered in the eternal darkness of the void. No one could find it. I really didn't expect Mount Eternal to suddenly appear. Many people guess that the indestructible ancient scripture is about to reappear. Gu Xinghui sighed. Lu Ming was also interested. Okay, let's go and take a look. Chapter 2232. Before becoming an emperor, it was a good opportunity to go out for a walk and adjust his condition to prepare for becoming an emperor. At the same time, he could also try his luck. If he could really get the indestructible ancient scripture, it would be a great stroke of luck. Immediately, Lu Ming, Mulins, and Dandan followed Gu Xinghui and left for the Gu clan's palace. This time, the Gu clan would also send people to try their luck. Mount Eternal had been wandering in the eternal darkness for so many years. It was very difficult to get it by relying on one's cultivation alone. It would require a fortuitous encounter. Therefore, the Gu clan sent some geniuses. The number one genius of the Gu clan, Guingzhong, was naturally among them. However, there were also many experts. There were true emperors and great emperors who were led by the Gu clan's patriarch. Everyone soared into the sky and headed towards the nearest teleportation area. The Alcade Ancient City was located in the western part of the Grand Pure Sky domain. A few days later, the Gu clan had already arrived at the Alcade Ancient City. The Alcade Ancient City was one of the oldest ancient cities in the Heaven Domain. In the Heaven Domain, there were not many that could be called ancient cities. Each of them had spanned countless years and were full of mottled traces of time. During this period of time, this ancient city that had experienced countless years had become incomparably lively. There was a sea of people, all of them experts. There were experts from all over the Grand Pure Sky domain, not only the human race, but also the various divine beast races. For example, true dragons, heavenly tigers, phoenixes, and others could be seen from time to time. In the sky above the northern gate of the Alcade Ancient City, an incomparably huge divine mountain was suspended there. It was huge and majestic, like the legendary, immemorial divine mountain. This was Mount Eternal. Lu Ming and the others did not enter the Alcade Ancient City at first. Instead, they headed towards Mount Eternal. Boom! Boom! From afar, they could see a dazzling light constantly flickering and hear a shocking roar. Someone wanted to climb Mount Eternal, and it was a very shocking expert. Lu Ming saw a figure covered in divine light rushing towards Mount Eternal at an astonishing speed. However, no matter how fast he rushed towards Mount Eternal, it seemed that he could not cross the seemingly short distance. It was difficult for him to get close to Mount Eternal. There was a layer of light on Mount Eternal. It seemed to stop there, but it was impossible to get close. "Is that a heavenly emperor?" Someone from the Gu family asked in a hoarse voice. "That's right, it's indeed a heavenly emperor realm figure," the patriarch of the Gu family said. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Even a heavenly emperor realm figure was unable to ascend Mount Eternal? Chirp! At this moment, a cry echoed in the sky. Everyone saw a phoenix spreading its wings and soaring towards Mount Eternal. The aura emitted by the phoenix was shocking. Its body was enormous, and when it spread its wings, they covered the sky and covered the sun. This was absolutely and incomparably terrifying phoenix. Its cultivation was not weaker than that human race powerhouse from before. Without a doubt, it was a heavenly emperor realm existence. With a flap of its wings, the void collapsed, forming a terrifying dark space. It flew towards Mount Eternal at an unimaginable speed. However, it was still difficult for this terrifying phoenix to ascend Mount Eternal. Roar! A roar reverberated in all directions. An incomparably huge white tiger, filled with boundless killing intent, rushed towards Mount Eternal. However, like the phoenix, it was still unable to ascend the mountain. The white tiger roared and stretched out a huge claw. It was incomparably terrifying. It was even bigger than a mountain and grabbed towards Mount Eternal from the sky. Obviously, the white tiger was furious that it could not ascend the mountain. It wanted to blow up Mount Eternal. Its huge claw was even bigger than Mount Eternal. Unfortunately, when it grabbed down, Mount Eternal was like an illusion. It grabbed empty air and nothing was caught. Next, everyone saw a few powerful existences trying to ascend Mount Eternal. But in the end, it was to no avail. There were many people watching nearby. Lu Ming and the others learned from the nearby spectators that during this period, there were no less than 10 heavenly emperors who came here. They used all kinds of methods to try to ascend Mount Eternal and obtain the indestructible ancient scripture, but all of them failed. There were also great emperors, true emperors, and void emperors who tried to ascend the mountain, but all of them ended in failure. Some people speculated that the indestructible ancient scripture had not yet appeared. It was obviously impossible to seize it with strength. One had to know that the indestructible emperor was an invincible figure back then. Many people stayed in Alcade Ancient City, waiting for the right opportunity. Lu Ming and the others looked around Mount Eternal for a while, but it was to no avail. Even Dandan shook his head. They could only come to Alcade Ancient City and find a place to stay. Alcade Ancient City. I heard that it is one of the oldest cities in the heavenly realm. In history, many experts were born and left behind many ruins. How about we go take a look? Gu Ing invited Lu Ming, Dandan, and Mulins. The Gu family had lived in seclusion for generations and rarely came out. Gu Ing did not have many opportunities to come out. This time, if it was not for the indestructible ancient scripture, the Gu family would not have brought them out. It was rare for him to come out, so naturally he was very curious. All right. Lu Ming and the others nodded. Together with Gu Ing, they left the place where they lived and strolled around Alcade Ancient City. Alcade Ancient City was not only old, but it also covered a very large area. There were countless streets and ancient ruins everywhere. For example, there were many stone tablets which were Enlightenment tablets. These Enlightenment tablets had great Tao engravings left behind by experts. It was very helpful for those below the Martial Emperor realm. Many people below the Martial Emperor realm sat cross-legged under the Enlightenment tablets, quietly comprehending and cultivating. There were many statues in another place. They were all famous statues of the past generations. Each of them exuded a domineering that made people admire them. Many people were looking at them. Lu Ming and the others also came here. Look, those are the statues of the top 10 battle beasts. Gu Ying whispered. Lu Ming looked over and saw statues of different species. There was a 9 dragon with a winding body. There were 9 dragon claws under its abdomen. The scales on its body were clear and lifelike, as if the 9 dragons had come back to life. There was a giant elephant that was like a small mountain. Its muscles were obvious, as if it had explosive power. This was the immemorial dragonesque elephant. Next, they saw the statues of the Titan longhorn beetle, the immortal heavenly phoenix, the 9 lives demonic silkworm. These were the statues of the top 10 battle beasts. There were a total of 9 statues, but there was no statue of the world turtle. Dandan, you don't seem to be there. It seems that your reputation is not good enough. Or maybe they think that you are not worthy of being compared to the other 9. Lu Ming looked at Dandan and joked. Bullshit! The people who carved these statues must be ignorant or have a grudge against me. Damn it, they didn't put my statue in. Dandan was extremely unhappy and gritted her teeth. In the end, her eyes lit up and she said, I know they definitely can't carve out my majestic charm, so they don't have a statue of me. That must be it, haha. Uft. Lu Ming and the others looked at it with disdain. After a while, the crowd left. Lu Ming, it's you? You. How did you come to the heavenly realm? At this moment, a voice was heard. It sounded very surprised. Luo Tsangchong and Stellar River. Chapter 2233. Not far away, a few youths walked over. 2 of them were Lu Ming's old acquaintances, Luo Tsangchong and Xing Xinha from the primordial realm. Beside them was another youth that Lu Ming did not recognize. Luo Tsangchong and Xing Xinha seemed very surprised. Back then, Heavenly Emperor Kong Yin did not bring Lu Ming to the Heaven Domain. Why would Lu Ming appear in the Heaven Domain now? After the surprise, it was cold, murderous intent. Luo Tsangchong and Xing Xinha were the same. They did not hide their murderous intent as their figures flickered and surrounded Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming, I didn't expect you to come to the Heaven Domain too. Can't you just stay in the primordial realm and retire? Why must you come to the Heaven Domain to die? Well, it saves me a trip. Luo Tsangchong said coldly as a powerful aura emanated from his body. 2-star illusionary emperor seemed to have reached the peak of 2-star illusionary emperor and could step into 3-star illusionary emperor at any time. At the same time, 2 types of laws emanated from his body. They were both monarch Dao laws, and both were at the peak of the 1st realm. Obviously, after coming to the Heaven Domain, Luo Tsangchong had made great progress. Back in the Battle of 10 Earths, Luo Tsangchong had just broken through to 1-star illusionary emperor. Now he had reached the peak of 2-star illusionary emperor and comprehended the 2nd type of law, reaching the peak of the 1st realm. To be able to make such progress in 5 years was already very fast. He had definitely received a lot of resources to cultivate. The distance of each step in the martial emperor realm was very large and difficult to cross. Without resources, it would take a long time to cultivate honestly. Lu Ming glanced at Luo Tsangchong indifferently and said, I haven't seen you for 5 years. You've made some progress, but do you think you're my match? His voice was full of disdain. Luo Tsangchong's face turned ugly. Indeed, he did not have much confidence in dealing with Lu Ming alone. During the Battle of 10 Earths, Lu Ming was able to fight with the Heaven Domain prodigies who had mastered the strongest laws. He was much stronger than Luo Tsangchong now. Although he knew that Lu Ming was a peerless cripple and could not become an emperor, his combat ability should not be any different from 5 years ago, and there should not be any improvement. However, he was no match for Lu Ming now. However, he was not afraid because there were others beside him. Humph, Lu Ming, this is not the primordial realm, nor is it the same as 5 years ago. Luo Tsangchong said coldly, Oh, you mean the 2 of them? Lu Ming smiled indifferently as he glanced at the Star River and the strange young man. I alone am enough. Xing Xingha spoke with great confidence. Xing Xingha's cultivation had already reached 3-star illusionary emperor. His improvement was shocking as he had jumped 2 tiers. At the same time, his law had also made shocking progress. His battle strength was much stronger than 5 years ago during the Battle of the Ten Lands. Xingha was no longer weaker than the Heaven Realm geniuses who had descended upon the Yuan realm. His talent was very strong, and he was not weaker than the geniuses of the Heaven Realm. Now that he had the resources of the Heaven Realm to nurture him, his progress was extremely fast. He was confident that he could defeat Lu Ming alone. He is that peerless cripple from the primordial realm? The strange young man spoke. This person's cultivation was not weak either. He was a 3-star illusionary emperor and had mastered 3 types of law. Although he did not master the strongest law, 2 of his monarch laws had already reached the 2nd realm. His strength was also very shocking. That's right, it's him, Luo Tsangchong said in a cold voice. Many people have praised him to the heavens and bragged about how powerful he is. Today, I want to give it a try. The strange young man sneered. Those who bragged about him are just his friends. Luo Tsangchong sneered and said, Lu Ming, today you must die. Back then, in the world of the Lotus, Luo Tsangchong was abused by Lu Ming too miserably. Luo Pokong was killed by Lu Ming in public, and he was trampled on by Lu Ming in public. He was even treated as a human weapon and fought against Xing Xingha. He was utterly humiliated. He had always wanted to take revenge. However, in the Battle of the Ten Lands, the strength that Lu Ming displayed shocked him, but what happened later made him ecstatic. Lu Ming actually had a peerless, crippled body and could not go to the heavenly domain to cultivate. He was overjoyed and decided to return to the primordial realm after cultivating in the heavenly domain and kill Lu Ming personally. He did not expect to meet Lu Ming in the heavenly domain, but his intention to kill Lu Ming would not change. Lu Ming, give me the heavenly emperor's body, and I can give you a quick death. Xing Xingha said coldly. Of course. He was transmitting his voice to Lu Ming. He did not want others to know about the heavenly emperor's body. In his opinion, the heavenly emperor's body should belong to him, and anyone else who touched it had to die. He also had to kill Lu Ming. Xing Xingha and the other 2 completely ignored Dandan, Guing, and Mulins. How strong could they be when they were with a crippled body like Lu Ming? They did not care about them. Lu Ming, who are these 3 idiots? They fart as soon as they come, Dandan said unhappily. These words made Luo Tsangchong and Xing Xingha's faces turn black. Originally, it had nothing to do with you, but now, you have to be responsible for your own words. Luo Tsangchong said coldly, Nest, this kid has no ability at all, but he's very arrogant. I'll slap him to death. Dandan was even more unhappy. He rolled up his sleeves and was about to attack. Leave them to me. I'll deal with them. Lu Ming waved his hand and stopped Dandan. You'll deal with them? Let's see how you'll deal with them. The unfamiliar young man said coldly. He took a step forward and charged towards Lu Ming. His palm was like a blade, slashing down with force like a heavenly blade. He fully unleashed his 3-star illusionary emperor realm power and 3 types of monarch laws. 2 of them had already reached the 2nd realm and were extremely powerful. This attack shattered the void. A terrifying blade light slashed towards Lu Ming, wanting to split Lu Ming in half. Countless people around were alarmed and looked over. In the face of this attack, Lu Ming's expression did not change at all. He was very calm. Boom! Just as the blade light was about to hit Lu Ming made a move and pointed out with his finger. A finger force hit the blade light, and the blade light shattered immediately. The finger force did not stop and pointed at the unfamiliar young man at an astonishing speed. The unfamiliar young man's pupils shrank sharply. revealing a look of horror in his eyes as he frantically retreated. However, Lu Ming's finger force was faster. In an instant, it caught up with the unfamiliar young man. The unfamiliar young man yelled in horror. At this moment, his heart was full of fear and regret. He never dreamed that Lu Ming, who had a crippled body, would be so powerful. He was even more powerful than the legends said. His attack did not have any effect at all. He felt that death was approaching. He yelled and tried to escape, but it was all too late. Poof! The finger force pierced through his glabella and destroyed his soul. The unfamiliar young man's eyes were wide open and filled with unwillingness. Then his body fell heavily to the ground. Chapter 2234. They were well aware of the young man's battle strength. He was a very good genius in the heaven realm, and his battle strength was far above Luo Zhangqiong's. Even compared to Heng Xinghe, he was not much weaker. But now he was killed by Lu Ming in one move. Wasn't Lu Ming's battle strength stronger than Heng Xinghe's? Wasn't Lu Ming a crippled body? How could his battle strength improve so quickly if he couldn't become an emperor? They couldn't figure it out. What they wanted to do now was to run. Heng Xinghe and Luo Zhangqiong retreated almost at the same time. You want to run when you know you can't beat me? Have you asked for my permission? Haha. Lu Ming sneered. He took a step forward and caught up with Luo Zhangqiong in an instant like a ray of dim light. Luo Zhangqiong's eyes were full of horror. The young man's battle strength was above his, but he was killed by Lu Ming in one move. If Lu Ming wanted to kill him, it wouldn't take him a second move. Lu Ming, you can't kill me. If you kill me, my grandfather won't let you go. Luo Zhangqiong roared. Your grandfather? He has already attacked me in the Yuan realm. Unfortunately, he is now seriously injured, and I don't know where he went to heal. I will take his head myself in the future. Lu Ming sneered. He must kill Luo Zhangqiong. Autumn Moon was in a desperate situation because of Luo Zhangqiong and almost couldn't wake up. Later, Luo Zhangqiong's grandfather, the great emperor of Tianluo, joined the great emperor of the Mu clan to kill him in the ancient Moon Holy Land. It could be said that he, the Daluo Heaven sect, and the Luo clan were already mortal enemies. If Luo Zhangqiong didn't come to him, he would go to him. Since he met him today, he would not let him go. Impossible. Hearing Lu Ming's words, Luo Zhangqiong roared in disbelief. Go in peace. Lu Ming said indifferently and pointed his finger. Puff! Without any suspense, Luo Zhangqiong's glabella was pierced by the finger strength. His soul was destroyed, and he died on the spot. So far, the two king bodies of the Daluo Heaven sect had been killed by Lu Ming. After killing Luo Zhangqiong, Lu Ming chased after Luo Zhangqiong. At this moment, Stellar River was flying at full speed. He had a feeling that if he didn't leave today, he wouldn't be able to. Lu Ming's battle prowess had exceeded his imagination. However, he still had hope. Lu Ming was just a cripple. He would never be able to become a martial monarch. Even if he could increase his battle prowess, it would be limited. He, on the other hand, didn't believe that he couldn't kill Lu Ming after becoming a true emperor. As long as he was alive, he could kill Lu Ming. Therefore, he used all his strength to run for his life. But when he turned around to look, he was scared out of his wits, because Lu Ming was not far from him. Heng Xinghe, go down and accompany Luo Zhangqiong, lest he be lonely. Lu Ming said coldly. He displayed the 6 feathered wings and was extremely fast. With a flap of the wings, he was close to Stellar River. Kill! The River of Stars came to a stop, and with a shout, the godly bell of eternity appeared and began to vibrate. Now, Stellar River's cultivation was much stronger than before. He had reached the 3-star Void Emperor. Moreover, his eternal law had reached the 2nd realm, and he had mastered a sovereign law. Therefore, the power of the eternal divine bell was many times stronger than before. Layers of sound waves rushed out and turned into sharp swords, slashing toward Lu Ming. It was extremely terrifying. This move again. Hung Xinghe, this move is useless against me. Lu Ming said faintly and blasted out a palm. Boom! The void exploded as the terrifying palm force rushed towards the stellar river like an avalanche. The sharp swords formed by the sound waves of the eternal divine bell exploded and collapsed. The palm force continued to surge towards stellar river and bombarded the eternal divine bell. Dong! The eternal divine bell vibrated violently and cracks appeared. Hung Xinghe's body was thrown out like a cannonball, and he coughed up blood in the air. How is this possible? Stellar River roared, his voice full of disbelief. How could Lu Ming's combat strength be so strong? In the 5 years since he came to the Heaven Realm, Stellar River had received a lot of resources. There was even a big shot who valued him and took him in as a disciple. That was a heavenly emperor. Being a disciple of a heavenly emperor and receiving the heavenly emperor's training, he had made great progress in all aspects. His combat strength had increased tremendously. Even so, after 5 years when he met Lu Ming again, he was even more vulnerable. He couldn't accept it. These people are so weak. Why are they here to kill Lu Ming? Dandan pursed his lips and was speechless. They're here to die. Gu Ying was also speechless. The surrounding onlookers were also discussing. Who is that person? What a strong combat strength. I heard them say that he has a peerless cripple physique. What's going on? I don't know. I know. I heard that there is a peerless cripple physique in the primordial realm. Before becoming an emperor, he has mastered many laws and even 2 supreme laws. What? 2 supreme laws of nature? The scene was in an uproar. Many people exclaimed, but even more people didn't believe it. They didn't believe that someone could master 2 supreme laws. That was impossible. In history, no one had ever done it. High in the sky, Lu Ming's figure didn't stop and continued to attack Stellar River. Using the 6-feathered divine wings, Lu Ming's speed was extremely fast. With a flap of his wings, Lu Ming instantly caught up with Stellar River. Dong! Lu Ming struck out with his palm again, bombarding Stellar River's eternal divine bell. This time, the eternal divine bell covering Stellar River's body directly exploded. The sound of bones breaking could be heard all over Stellar River's body. His body flew out and vomited blood. Lu Ming didn't use his full strength. In his palm, there were only 4 types of laws: Primal Chaos Law, Devour Law, Penetration Law, and Force Law. In the past few years, Lu Ming had improved too much. After refining a trace of energy from the ancestral dragon's blood, his physical strength skyrocketed. At the same time, the Alchemy Law, Tools Law, and Penetration Law were all perfected one after another. After tempering his physical body and saint power again and again, Lu Ming's physical body and saint power had improved a lot. Stellar River strength was no weaker than Blue Cloud and Yen Shi that Lu Ming encountered 3 years ago. At that time, Lu Ming needed to go all out to fight with experts like Blue Cloud or Yen Shi. But now, Lu Ming was also using 4 types of laws. He hadn't even used his ultimate move yet, but he was able to crush Stellar River completely. Be on your way. Lu Ming chased after Stellar River. Stellar River went berserk and tried his best to escape. Lu Ming, you can't kill me. My master is the Heavenly Emperor. At the same time, Stellar River roared and mentioned his master, hoping that Lu Ming would have some scruples. But he also knew that he knew Lu Ming very well. Lu Ming was a lawless person, and there was no way to scare him. Sure enough, Lu Ming was unmoved and continued to chase after him. Despair appeared on Stellar River's face. Lu Ming, stop. Chapter 2235. Originally, Lu Ming wanted to kill Hung Xinghe and get rid of this problem. But at this moment, a fist energy traversed the void and blasted towards Lu Ming. Its power was extremely shocking. Law of chaos. In this fist energy, Lu Ming felt the fluctuation of the law of chaos. Without thinking, Lu Ming struck out with his palm. Boom! Lu Ming's palm and the fist energy collided heavily. The void exploded and vibrated continuously. Extremely strong winds swept in all directions. Xinghe's body trembled and was sent flying by the aftershock. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Lu Ming looked up into the sky. A burly figure stepped through the air and looked down at Lu Ming. Yuan Xin. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled up slightly. Today was such a coincidence to meet an old acquaintance from the Yuan realm. Law of chaos. That's Yuan Xin, the son of chaos from the Yuan realm. I've heard of him. This person's talent is amazing. After coming to the heaven realm, he was immediately taken in as a disciple by a top expert. He received a lot of resources to nurture him, and his progress was rapid. Some time ago, he defeated several famous geniuses from the heaven realm. I've heard of him too. This person's talent is indeed amazing. He has a chance to compete with Jiu in the future. This time, the Yuan realm has indeed produced many geniuses with amazing talent. Other than Yuan Xin, there's another person who is even more terrifying. He's a natural son of destiny and controls the law of destiny. There are also a few geniuses from the Archean system. They're also very terrifying. Obviously, after 5 years, those geniuses who came to the Yuan realm had risen rapidly. They had made a name for themselves in the heaven realm and were known by many experts in the heaven realm. Yuan Xin looked down from above. His eyes shone brightly as he stared at Lu Ming. A powerful battle intent emanated from his body. Lu Ming, I didn't expect you to come to the heaven realm too. Although you can't become an emperor, your combat strength has reached this level. It's really amazing. But this is good too. When I kill you, I'll feel better. As he spoke, Yuan Xin's eyes revealed a sinister look. Do you remember what I said to you during the Battle of 10 Earths? As long as you're defeated by me once, you'll never be my match in the future. Lu Ming said softly, his voice full of disdain, boasting shamelessly. A crippled body will never be able to become a martial emperor. Where does your confidence come from? Yuan Xin shouted coldly. Then, a terrifying aura burst out from his body. 4-star Void Emperor. This was Yuan Xin's current cultivation. 4-star illusionary emperors were already high-level illusionary emperors. They were much stronger than 3-star illusionary emperors. Powerful world energy surged, and the power of laws revolved around Yuan Xin, making him look like a god of war. 3 types of laws. The law of primal chaos is already at the 2nd level. Lu Ming's heart stirred. He had a rough estimation of Yuan Xin's combat strength. Now, are you still confident? Yuan Xin spoke, full of confidence. To him, meeting Lu Ming today was a piece of great news. During the Battle of 10 Earths, he had been defeated by Tianming and Lu Ming, and he was still brooding over it. Today he could defeat Lu Ming. He would defeat Tianming another day. He wanted to prove to everyone that he was the number 1 genius of Yuanlu. In the future, he wanted to defeat the strongest genius of the heaven domain and stand at the peak. This was his ambition. Lu Ming is ours. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. In the distance, a few rays of light flew over rapidly. In the next moment, a few figures appeared in the sky. His powerful aura and cold, murderous intent pressed toward Lu Ming without any concealment. Blue Cloud Yan Shi. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. It seemed that he had met a few old acquaintances. It was Blue Cloud and Yan Shi. When the two of them looked at Lu Ming, their gazes were exceptionally cold. Lu Ming, I will kill you today, Blue Cloud said coldly. That day, because of Lu Ming, he was beaten so badly by Dandan. Later, because of Lu Ming, he did not get the treasure. Then, the two of them looked at Dandan and Mulin's, and cold killing intent erupted from them. Of course, there was also greed. They recognized Mulin's. Back then, there was a small pagoda above Mulin's head. It was definitely a supreme treasure. Since they had met today, they would take it together. They were overjoyed. This was not a battlefield, and there were not so many rules. It was normal to kill each other. You guys surround those people. Blue Cloud shouted and waved his hand. Following Blue Cloud and Yen, she were a few middle-aged men. At this moment, they flashed and surrounded Dandan, Mulin's, and Guingzhong. These middle-aged men were all true emperors. Their terrifying auras made Mulin's and Guingzhong's face turn serious. Dandan's face darkened, and his eyes flashed with killing intent. Lu Ming, let's see who can save you today. Blue Cloud and Yen, she flashed and surrounded Lu Ming. Haha, Lu Ming, looks like you've offended a lot of people. Yuan Xian sneered. A bunch of clowns. Lu Ming said indifferently. What did you say? You're courting death. Blue Cloud shouted, and his aura became even colder. A few years had passed, and Blue Cloud and Yen, she had undoubtedly become stronger. Their cultivation had reached 4-star empty emperor, and their laws had improved. On the surface, they did not seem weaker than Yuan Xian. The 3 young experts surrounded Lu Ming. This useless body from the Yuan realm has offended so many people? He's overestimating himself. He's just a useless body that can never become an emperor. How dare he be so arrogant? Is he courting death? I heard that he's famous in Yuan continent, and he's ranked first among the younger generation in Yuan continent. This is normal. He has mastered many laws before becoming an emperor, so his combat strength must be very strong. It's a pity that he has no potential and can't become an emperor. I think he's used to being arrogant, so he doesn't understand his situation. Others can keep improving, but he's still so arrogant. He won't live for long. I think he's going to die today. Some people discussed and thought that Lu Ming was going to die today. Blue Cloud, Yan Shi, and Yuan Xian were all much stronger than Xinghe. Now, the 3 of them were obviously going to deal with Lu Ming. Did Lu Ming still have a chance? Big brother Lu Ming. At this moment, a joyful voice was heard. The voice was crisp and pleasant. Then, the void flickered, and a figure suddenly appeared on Lu Ming's shoulder. Lu Ming did not dodge, because he knew who it was when he heard the voice. Bubbles. Bubbles. Lu Ming called out with a smile on his face. It seemed that Bubbles had also arrived. They had not seen each other for 5 years, and Bubbles looked the same as before. She did not grow much older, and still looked like she was 2 or 3 years old. Big brother Lu Ming. Bubbles hung on Lu Ming's neck, and her little head rubbed against Lu Ming's body, unwilling to let go. Seeing Bubbles coming, Yuan Xian's eyes showed a trace of seriousness. Chapter 2236. After a while, Bubble raised her head and looked at Yuan Xian, Blue Cloud, and Yan Shi. What do these guys want? They're asking for a beating. Bubble pouted and looked at Blue Cloud, Yan Shi, and the others unkindly. It's her, the space-time spirit mouse. Blue Cloud and Yen, she also recognized Bubble. The top 10 young battle beasts were too rare, and their talents were astonishing. When Bubble came, she caused a sensation. Many people knew that a space-time spirit mouse came from the primordial realm. Moreover, she was taken in as a disciple by a terrifying divine beast. She was carefully taught, and her speed of improvement was amazing. Her combat strength was even stronger. During this period, many geniuses had been defeated by her. Blue Cloud and Yen she naturally knew. At the same time, they were also quite afraid of the existence behind Bubble. They didn't expect that Lu Ming and Bubble actually knew each other, and they seemed to have a good relationship. Hey, tell me, is it you and you who want to go against Big Brother Lu Ming? If you want to fight, you have to go through me first. Bubble waved her small fists and glanced at Blue Cloud and Yan Shi. This has nothing to do with you. Blue Cloud said coldly. Who said it has nothing to do with me? Bubble glared at Blue Cloud. You'd better not interfere in this matter. My lawn family may not be afraid of the person behind you. Blue Cloud said again, Nonsense, if you want to fight, then fight, chirp chirp. Bubble was angry and was about to attack. Bubble, I can deal with these people by myself. Lu Ming smiled and stopped Bubble. Oh, okay, big brother Lu Ming. Beat them up for me, chirp chirp. Bubble cried, then turned her gaze and saw Dandan. Her big eyes immediately lit up, and she immediately appeared on Dandan's shoulder. Little turtle, long time no see, chirp chirp. Bubbles blinked her big eyes and carefully sized up Dandan. Although Dandan had taken human form and used a mysterious technique to restrain its aura, Bubble and Dandan were both top 10 war beasts and had extremely sharp senses. Bubble recognized Dandan at a glance. Dandan's face turned even darker. You're the little turtle. Your whole family are little turtles. Dandan said unhappily. You're obviously a little tortoise. Why don't you admit it? Chirp. Bubble pouted. Don't compare me to an ordinary tortoise. Dandan said angrily. Both of them stared at each other and bickered. Lu Ming smiled as his gaze swept over Blue Cloud, Yanxi and Yuan Xan. His indifferent voice sounded. All of you want to kill me? Then come at me together. Don't waste my time. These words shocked everyone present. What? This trash actually asked Blue Cloud and the others to come at him together? Is he crazy? Although his combat strength is not bad, he's simply courting death by being so arrogant. The others were surprised. The faces of Blue Cloud and the others became even gloomier. Lu Ming wanted to fight the three of them alone, which was simply courting death. This was an insult to them. I alone am enough to deal with you. Blue Cloud took the lead. He punched out, and a lion's roar resounded through the sky. On his fist, there was a lion jumping and roaring with astonishing power. This was the divine ability passed down in Blue Cloud's family, which came from an ancient scripture. Compared to 3 years ago, Blue Cloud was undoubtedly stronger. Not only did his cultivation break through, but his law was also more profound. He had already comprehended the third law and reached the perfected first realm. With a punch, the lion's roar shook the sky, and the wind whistled, crushing towards Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's expression was calm, and he simply struck out with his palm. For this palm, Lu Ming still only used the law of primal chaos, the law of force, the law of devour, and the law of penetration. However, Lu Ming's body trembled, and an even stronger force erupted. Boom! Lu Ming's palm collided with Blue Cloud's fist, and an astonishing vibration erupted. Then, Blue Cloud retreated frantically, and the lion on his fist let out a wail and exploded with a loud bang. Bang! 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 Blue Cloud retreated dozens of steps, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. Lu Ming actually pushed him back with a palm. How was this possible? 3 years ago, Lu Ming's strength was at most slightly stronger than his. After 3 years, his combat strength had increased explosively. How could he be pushed back by Lu Ming's palm? Wasn't Lu Ming a trash who couldn't become a martial emperor? How could his strength improve so rapidly? He really couldn't figure it out. The others also couldn't figure it out, and each of them opened their mouths wide. Yuan Xian's pupils also shrank, and his heart was greatly shocked. I've said it before. The three of you should attack together, so as not to waste my time. Lu Ming said, his voice spreading far and wide. Blue Cloud, Yanxi, and Yuan Xian's faces turned ugly. At this moment, they couldn't retreat, nor could they fight. If you're not going to attack, then I'll do it. Lu Ming was incomparably powerful. He stepped out and directly attacked. Boom! 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 He struck out 3 consecutive palms, and 3 powerful palm prints whistled out, respectively attacking Yuan Xian, Blue Cloud, and Yanxi. Since you're courting death, then I'll fulfill your wish. Let's attack together." Yen, she roared. He made his move. A saber appeared in his hand, and he slashed at Lu Ming. Roar! Blue Cloud followed suit. His fists continuously punched out. On both fists, there was a lion jumping and roaring continuously. Its power was extremely shocking. At the same time, Yuan Xian also attacked. He erupted with all his strength, waving his fists. His full strength condensed into a mountain, and he attacked Lu Ming. Yuan Xian was undoubtedly stronger. In the Battle of the Ten Lands, he only grasped a single law. Now he grasped a higher level of law. Each attack had several laws erupting, and with the law of chaos as the core, its power was extremely shocking. The three of them joined forces, and the void was boiling. It was completely destroyed. Boom! 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 The attacks of the three collided with Lu Ming's palm prints. The void rumbled continuously, and the force swept in all directions. Some of the weaker cultivators retreated continuously. But what was shocking was that after the collision, Lu Ming's figure didn't move at all. He stood in the void, and his expression was very calm. He was fighting 1 against 3, and he didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Impossible! Yuan Xian roared in his heart. The power of the world erupted completely. Mountains crushed towards Lu Ming, wanting to crush Lu Ming into pieces. At the same time, Blue Cloud and Yen, she also roared and charged towards Lu Ming. Just SOSO. Lu Ming spoke. This time he pointed out 3 fingers in a row. This was the Chaos Calamity Finger, but its power had far surpassed the Chaos Ring. Because of this finger, Lu Ming had fused 5 types of laws. Law of Chaos, Law of Devour, Law of Force, Law of Penetration, Law of Array Dao. In the Gu family, Lu Ming often sparred with Dandan. Dandan's understanding and use of laws had reached an unbelievable level. Lu Ming also benefited a lot. His use of laws far surpassed Yuan Xian and the rest. With 5 types of laws gathered, the power was shocking. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.